Chapter 288. Jing-Yuan was quite happy to be interrupted by Granny Gong. She looked at Li Hongyuan with a smile. Seeing that his face was a little dark, she held his face and kissed him on the lips. "Ah Yuan, you're not going to change? This outfit of yours isn't much better than the one I was wearing before." He stretched out his hand and tugged at his broad shoulders. "Wan, how long do you think it will take for me to change? Do you think everyone is like you, dilly-dallying for half a day?" Li Hongyuan pinched the tip of her nose naughtily. He was a little rough. Jing-Yuan slapped the back of his hand. "What do you mean everyone is like me? There are many people slower than me." Although she had put on makeup today, she did not have to put it on again after washing it off. Many women put in a lot of effort to ensure that they would always have the most perfect image in front of their husbands. "I don't know how others are like, but I know how Wan is like," Li Hongyuan teased. Seeing that Jing-Yuan was grinding her teeth as if she was going to bite him, he helped her up. "Let's go. It's a little earlier than expected, but it's good. Maybe we can have a good sleep later in the night." He took her hand and walked out. Outside the door, there were not only people waiting to serve her, but Mu-An was also holding clothes. Then, a certain someone put on a good show in front of her. The clothes that usually looked complicated and difficult to put on and take off were simply like magic in his hands. Moreover, his movements were also smooth and did not appear to be flustered at all. Did he even take half a minute to change into his capable and experienced clothes? "You're a prince who has been served since he was a child. Is it really good for him to be so good at doing things?" Jing-Yuan mourned for her ability to take care of herself at a younger age. To be honest, she was almost half disabled in this aspect. Jing-Yuan didn't know how she managed to avoid all the eyes around her, but she didn't cause any commotion along the way. Because there was no light, the moonlight on the 5th day of the lunar month. It was dark all the way. However, Li Hongyuan held Jing-Yuan in his arms, so she didn't have to use her eyes. They walked very smoothly and didn't stumble. Whether it was the people leading the way in front or the people following behind, they were all very quiet. Jing-Yuan thought that there might be a carriage at the door, but there wasn't. After walking for a while, she entered another door. There were a few dim lanterns lit here. "This is the house next door? Is this the place we're going to?" It was different from what he had expected. Li Hongyuan chuckled. What else did Wan think? Leaving the city now? There's a curfew and the city gates are closed. Are you going to climb the walls to get out? Jing-Yuan's face couldn't help but darken. She had been misled by the idea of leaving the city in the middle of the night and made a common mistake. "Then may I ask your highness, how are we going to get out of the city?" She gritted her teeth. "Didn't they say that the city gates are closed?" "Of course, we have to wait until someone opens the gates," Li Hongyuan said matter-of-factly. His eyes seemed to say, "Why did Wan become so stupid?" Jing-Yuan's anger was stuck in her throat. She couldn't spit it out or swallow it. Li Hongyuan's character was really infuriating sometimes. He only teased Jing-Yuan occasionally. It was a kind of fun. If he could make her angry, she could imagine the grief and indignation of other people, especially when they were deliberately targeted by him. He knew what she was asking, but he deliberately played along. Jing-Yuan couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. His wife was angry, so he had to quickly coax her. "It's my fault. Wan, don't be angry. The following matters have already been arranged. Originally, we might have to find a way to open the city gates ourselves. Now, there will naturally be someone to open the gates for us. We just have to wait." Jing-Yuan expressed that she wasn't a kitten or a puppy. She would be fine after being teased and coaxed. Next, it was time for our Jin Qin-Wang to coax his wife. It made the people around them want to retreat and completely disappear. Their teeth were about to ache. Your Highness, I know that you two love each other, but can you restrain yourself a little? Even if it's your own people, please don't hurt them like this." Mu Gonggong expressed that he wanted to find a servant girl to pair up with. His eyes glanced at Jing-Yuan's several servant girls. He quickly turned his gaze away and dispelled the idea. Not to mention the head servant girls by Wang Fei's side, Even if it was those little servant girls in Wangfu, if he dared to casually reach out, Wang Fei would chop him up. It wasn't that no one was willing to follow him, but that kind of person definitely had a purpose. If it wasn't because of his status, it was because they wanted to inquire about his master's matters through him. So, after thinking about it, he decided to forget about it. Mu Gonggong was very self-aware. He was very clear that because he knew too many things about Master, it was best for him not to have too much involvement with irrelevant people in this life. If he was well behaved, he might be able to live a life of glory, splendor, and wealth. If he had any thoughts, he never thought that Master would be soft-hearted. Your Highness, it's starting over there. What's starting? Jingwan was confused. However, it should be something that had been arranged or expected to happen. Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand. Wan, come with me. Originally, she wasn't very angry. At this time, Jingwan naturally followed Li Hongyuan. There was a 3-story attic in this residence. Standing on the 3rd floor, one could see the courtyard that belonged to the governor. At this moment, basically nothing could be seen. However, Jingwan inexplicably felt a sense of tension. Li Hongyuan stroked Jingwan's back as if to comfort her, but he remained silent. Because there was no light, Jingwan couldn't see his expression, but she felt that he was expressionless at this time. He was indifferent and ruthless, as if he was a god standing in the 9th heaven. He was not compassionate, but absolutely superior. Those who offended him should be prepared to bear his anger. But soon, Jingwan knew what was going on. Because there were several flames inside and outside the courtyard at the same time, and the fire was quite fierce. It could be seen that there was something added. Jingwan's pupils shrank fiercely. Weren't these people too bold? How dare they set fire to the courtyard? Were they determined to kill all of them? However, there was a question. They set fire so blatantly. Did they really think that there were dead people in the courtyard? There was no movement before, so they should have thought that there was no one left. Why would they set fire to the courtyard? No, there's another situation. That is, they knew that the people in the courtyard were dead asleep, but the people in the back of the courtyard were people we brought from the Wangfu. Did something happen to them, or were they controlled by someone? Wan, do you think it's the former or the latter? Li Hongyuan asked as if nothing had happened. It's not what I think it is. However, Jingwan already had an answer in her heart. Because, Jingwan believed that there was absolutely no problem with the guards in the courtyard. With them there was no reason for outsiders to take advantage of and enter the courtyard to kidnap and drug the chefs. But as far as she knew, the chefs that were brought out this time had been in the Jin Wangfu for at least 3 years and had always been well. It could be seen how deep they were hidden. Or perhaps they were hidden chess pieces. They didn't do anything on normal days, only leaving them for crucial moments. But they had all left. The number of people was not small. Was there really no one who suspected? Also, the people who didn't leave with them, were they going to be buried in the sea of fire? Jingwan couldn't help but clench her fists. Her expression was very ugly. Li Hongyuan seemed to know what she was thinking. There are our substitutes in the courtyard. These people are not ordinary people. Because they had already taken precautions, this is just a show to beat them at their own game. As for the others, knowing that you are soft-hearted and can't bear to see innocent people die, we have already let them return to their own residences. You will know when you see. Right now they are far from being affected. As for the future, rest assured, there will be people coming back to be good people. Unless they are too unlucky, no one will die. Jingwan breathed a sigh of relief. Her tense body gradually relaxed. She hugged Li Hongyuan from the side. Ah Yuan, thank you. Jingwan was very clear that because of her, this man spent more energy and did a lot of things that he wouldn't do originally. Jingwan was very happy. Not only because he did this for her, but also because, no matter what the reason was, at least he was no longer so cold and ruthless. She didn't want him to create too many obstacles. However, you are the most important. When other people or things don't conflict with you, it's fine to do it in passing. If it hinders you or even threatens you, you don't have to ask. If unrelated people get involved because of us, I may feel uncomfortable. But if something happens to you, I may be in so much pain that I wish I was dead." Towards Jingwan's more and more straightforward words of love, Li Hongyuan naturally enjoyed it. "Wan, don't worry. I know what's important." At this moment, there was an unforeseen event in the courtyard. The people who were supposed to be dead asleep seemed to have woken up. In an instant, the whole courtyard was in an uproar. Not only were there people shouting to put out the fire, there were also people shouting to kill. The flames soared into the sky and set off the chaotic figures. Accompanied by "Your Highness, Princess Consort is still in the room, hurry." Although it wasn't particularly clear, but inexplicably, Jingwan heard similar words very clearly. Her heart trembled. Then, Jingwan seemed to hear Yu Zhongqing's voice. "Ah Yuan, Lord Yu. Not everyone can be a substitute. Otherwise, it's easy to reveal flaws. Moreover, he's not happy in his heart and needs to vent." After seeing everything about Governor Su, Jingwan naturally knew the reason why Yu Zhongqing was unhappy. Therefore, she kept silent. These people are the official army of the Kaming Mansion? Someone really dared to make such a bold move? Most likely. However, the number of people is estimated to be at most 100. After this incident, regardless of whether they live or die, these people's identities are probably bandits. They are more likely to be the remnants of the previous dynasty. They hate the imperial court. With such a flamboyant prince from the Kaming Mansion, the other party sneaked into the city early and found an opportunity to launch a night attack. This title may be far-fetched, but since things have come to this point, regardless of whether they participate or not, they will definitely work together in order to protect themselves. Then, they will jointly ask for forgiveness from the emperor. The emperor may be angry, but it is impossible for him to behead all of them, especially when you are still alive and well. It's a good plan. However, these people will lose their lives for nothing. Their families may not even get any benefits. There were always some people who didn't take other people's lives seriously. No matter who is the instigator or the participant, no one can escape from this incident. It's fine on the surface, but secretly, I will definitely make them suffer a fate worse than death. At this time, Li Hongyuan was ruthless, but Jingwan was not the least bit surprised. Because of the noise, the surrounding houses also lit up their lights. Jingwan and the others also lit up their lights, but like the other houses, they did not open the door to go out. Jingwan could roughly understand their thoughts. They all knew what kind of people lived there. Even if they realized that something might have happened, they would not go up to avoid attracting trouble. "The reinforcements are here," Li Hongyuan said lightly. Jingwan, who was looking at the fire in a daze, came back to her senses when she heard that. Then, she also noticed that something was wrong. On the other side of the house, a group of at least 500 people holding torches and riding horses galloped over. Just when Jingwan was guessing who brought the reinforcements, Li Hongyuan seemed to be performing a magic trick and handed a clairvoyant to her. Jingwan paused and took it. In fact, she wanted to say, "Dear, you are simply a treasure chest." Jingwan raised the clairvoyant and looked carefully. She found a more special position in the group. The seemingly elegant man was riding on the horse with an anxious face. He was swaying on the horse, but he kept shouting, "Hurry, hurry, hurry." Who else could it be but Governor Su? And around him, there were a few other people. Although they were not wearing official uniforms, they should be military officers. Ah Yuan knew that he would come? Seeing Li Hongyuan's confident attitude before, how could Jingwan not know? Since this person has some guesses about me, then he will not easily take risks, let alone wallow in the mire with others. This kind of person, if it is not 100% certain, he will never let himself get involved. Even if he does it, he will do it cleanly. He is very familiar with using others to do his dirty work. Not only that, he will not let go of such a good opportunity to perform meritorious deeds. Is there anyone scarier than this kind of person in the world? Jingwan whispered. Yes, your husband is me. Don't you see that no matter what he does, your husband is still better than him? Li Hongyuan laughed. Your skin is thicker than the city wall. What's one time? If you can beat him every time and suppress him until the end, no matter how unwilling he is, he will not be able to make a comeback. Then, it will not be too late for you to say this. Jing Wan refuted him without holding back. Then, Wan, let's wait and see. Due to the arrival of Governor Su and his men, the originally chaotic situation in the courtyard was quickly brought under control. For some unknown reason, these people did not show any mercy to the black-clothed men who committed the crime. They directly killed them without mercy. The bloody scene was reflected in Jingwan's eyes frame by frame. Jingwan's face turned pale and her hands trembled. Li Hongyuan wanted to take off her clairvoyance, but she stubbornly continued to watch. Li Hongyuan did not quite understand what she was thinking at this time, but he did not insist on stopping her. And in one of the scenes, although Jingwan could not hear it, she could basically guess that the rescuer and the bandit were acquaintances at that time, or even good brothers. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653520. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 289. And among them, there was a scene, although Jingwan could not hear it, but she could basically guess that the reinforcements and the bandits were acquaintances, or even good brothers. The bandits were masked, and the soldier was in uniform. At first, perhaps because of the chaos, the soldier did not recognize the bandits, but the bandits could see each other clearly. The bandits were shocked, and because they were familiar with each other, they subconsciously retreated, but when they retreated, Bing excitedly rushed forward, and mercilessly stabbed the bandits with his knife. One must know, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and every one of them had a part to play. When there was no war, to these small soldiers, wanting to be promoted was basically impossible, and this time, many people were fighting for this opportunity. Perhaps the bandit did not think that it would be like this. His eyes suddenly burst open, and at the same time made a sound, and Bing seemed to have just realized something, in a breath of time. His pupils suddenly shrank, from doubt, to suspicion, to disbelief, and then to fear and trembling. No! He hugged the bandit's tottering body. This was probably the only word that Jingwan could distinguish, but that heart-wrenching, even if the voice could not be heard, it was clearly felt, and Jingwan's body could not help but tremble slightly. Li Hongyuan knew, Jingwan probably saw a very stimulating scene, and did not have the slightest hesitation, and took the clairvoyance. This time Jingwan did not hold on to it. Li Hongyuan used the clairvoyance to sweep a glance at the place that Jingwan was looking at. What Jingwan could guess, he could naturally guess. Compared to Jingwan's huge emotional impact, Li Hongyuan's emotions did not fluctuate at all, but, at this time, he did not know how to comfort her, and could not empathize with her. Some words would be too empty, and might even have the opposite effect, so it was better not to say, and just tightly held her in his arms. Li Hongyuan took another look, and suddenly felt a little lucky that Jingwan did not continue to look, because if she did, he was afraid that she would not be able to bear it. All of this was because the soldier was hugging the bandit. His lips were trembling, and before he could say anything, the pain on his face had not subsided at all. He was forcefully pulled away by another person. With one look, one could tell that it was his superior. He only said one sentence, but the soldier looked like he was about to break down. The superior did not hesitate to pull out his sword and let the bandit fall to the ground. He even kicked the soldier and chased him away quickly. That was just a bandit, a real bandit. It had nothing to do with them. The bandit fell to the ground, his eyes as big as copper bells, and died with grievances. Do you want to kill everyone? Of course, these bandits' identities were exposed. When the time came, the corpses would be piled up into mountains. Jingwan knew that under the feudal dynasty, the people at the top regarded the people at the bottom as weeds, and killing and seizing was just a matter of words. The so-called prince who broke the law was guilty of the same crime as commoners. That was simply a joke among jokes. However, this was the first time she truly experienced this kind of blood and cruelty. When the Son of Heaven is angry, millions of corpses will fall. This is not nonsense. Li Hongyuan murmured. Jingwan knew the meaning of his words, but her heart still could not relax. Moreover, Governor Su's face was filled with fear and trepidation as he found Jin Qin Wang and Jin Qin Wang Fei. Jin Qin Wang Fei was unconsciously leaning on Jin Qin Wang, and Jin Qin Wang Fei had disheveled hair and was only wearing an inner garment. The originally snow-white clothes were now full of black ash, and the hostility around his body could be felt from far away. Governor Su's heart could not help but thump, and he did not dare to approach, and knelt far away to beg for forgiveness, and behind him were several other officials. Atonement? This kind of thing, when is it your turn as a governor to ask? Jin Qin Wang Fei's voice was as cold as ice. Not knowing if it was because this person imitated too well, or because of the distance, Governor Su did not have any doubts about his identity. At this moment, he trembled as he opened his mouth. Wang Ye, you know, during the Dragon Boat Festival, with you and Wang Fei present, this is a rare happy occasion. This official is happy, so we drank a few more cups. Because this official's health was not good these 2 days, I overstepped my boundaries. It is this official's fault. Fortunately, Wang Ye and Wang Fei are fine, otherwise, this official will not be able to absolve ourselves from the blame even if we die 10,000 times. After not getting a response for a long time, Governor Su's palms were sweating. Even if he knew that Jin Qin Wang Fei was not ordinary, but how could he guarantee that the Jin Qin Wang Fei on the surface was not a part of him? Encountering this kind of person who acted according to common sense, no matter how resourceful he was, there was a possibility that he would stumble and lose his life. Then there would be nothing left. However, he could not come. If Jin Qin Wang Fei was really like what he expected, wanting him to lose his life, the possibility was not big. Once he escaped this calamity, when he returned to settle accounts, he would definitely not be able to escape responsibility. Therefore, he could not gamble. Moreover, if he won, it would be of great benefit to him. From the current situation, at least half of the gamble was right. If he did not bring anyone, tonight's matter would not be successful. Such a big Kai Ming Fu, if he did not do anything, thinking about the consequences. Jin Qin Wang Fei naturally knew that some people were drunk. If he did not find an excuse, how could he avoid tonight's matter? However, according to Master's temperament, did he think that it would be over if he avoided it? Just wait, even if Master was at the ends of the earth, if he wanted to deal with you, it would only be a matter of a word. Someone come, return to the ship. As he spoke, he carried Jin Qin Wang Fei horizontally. Governor Su was not sure of his attitude, so naturally he did not dare to say half a word. Returning to the ship at this time was also within his expectations. After all, Jin Qin Wang Fei carried a lot of luggage. Although it looked like a lot, it was only a part of it. Looking at the intensity of the fire, it was most likely burned away. According to Jin Qin Wang Fei's degree of pickiness, he naturally would not use the things prepared by others. When people boarded the ship, compared to unloading the luggage, it was naturally much simpler. Governor Su wanted to follow behind Jin Qin Wang Fei, but Yu Zhongqing stepped forward and easily replaced his position. It had to be said that Yu Zhongqing was quite amazing to be able to keep calm and not show any emotion when facing Governor Su. Just imagine, when he saw that the extermination of his family had a lot to do with Old Dog Su, and that he was most likely the person behind the scenes, his madness and hatred for killing people could not be shown. Even a person like Governor Su did not notice anything. It could be seen that when a person's hatred reached an extraordinary level, it might reach another extreme. Jin Qin Wang Fei rode a horse straight to the city gate with Jin Qin Wang Fei. Most of the people accompanying them were not very presentable, but now they did not say a word. The atmosphere looked quite heavy, especially those guards. Most of them were drenched. It was obvious that they had been thoroughly splashed with water. With the current situation, they could not absolve themselves from the blame for not being able to protect Wang Ye's safety. If it was not for Wang Ye's guards who were alert, and Wang Yi himself was not ordinary, who knew what the consequences would be, just thinking about it made them shudder with fear. The anger in their hearts was not just a little bit. They wished that they could chop those people into minced meat. But now that Wang Yi wanted to board the ship to wash up, no matter how much anger they had to hold it in. Jin Qin Wang Fei wanted to leave the city and board the ship. What was the matter with the curfew? The ferry that was sealed at night had to be opened immediately. Not long after this group of people left the city, another group of people appeared. Coincidentally, there wasn't a single guard at the city gate, so they easily achieved their goal. Jing Wan was also riding on the same horse as Li Hongyuan. Nestled in Li Hongyuan's arms, she knew that these guards were most likely led away by the people in front. But, what was it, leaving the city gate unattended? Was it because they were confident that there would not be any problems in the prefectural city? Or was it because Jin Qin Wang Fei's prestige was too great that he was in a fit of anger and no one dared to touch him? "Ah Yuan, where are we going now?" "Are we going by land?" There are 28 prefectures in the 4 counties of Jiangnan. This time, no matter if it was the academy examinations or the salt policy, the scope involved was quite wide. The academy examinations covered at least half of the prefectures, and the salt policy need not be mentioned. There was not a single prefecture that was left behind. The only difference was whether it was serious or not. After the foreshadowing in the early stages and the long-term investigation in the past, we can almost wrap it up. Those people all thought that I was too happy in Kai Ming Fu that I forgot what my surname was. They tried every means to erase the evidence and also wanted to divert the disaster to the people of Tongzhou Prefecture. And these people from Kai Ming Fu dared to kill me. It was not without their involvement. When they think that they can sit back and relax, I have to let them know what it means to fail at the last step. I have to let them know that even if it is something that has been decided, it can be overturned, not to mention this thing that has not been decided. And the next destination was also the prefectural city after Kai Ming Fu, Chongzhou Prefecture. But we will stay in Chongzhou for at most 1 or 2 days. After that, Chuanzhou Prefecture is the main event. When we are close to Chongzhou, we will continue to take the water route. Before that, Wan, you may have to work a little harder and spend most of your time riding with me. How about it? This is nothing. I am really not that delicate. Li Hongyuan's side face rubbed against the hair on the top of her head. When this matter is over, we will spend more time in Jiangnan and have fun. If you want, we can continue to go south. Have you seen the sea before? I heard that it is vast and boundless, and the waves are magnificent. When you face it, you can't help but feel lofty. Heard? No, Li Hongyuan had been to the coastal area more than once. Of course, it was in his previous life. According to the timeline, it was still in the future. But had Jingwan seen it before? Of course, on yachts, cruise ships, and even diving. She had personally experienced the beautiful scenery of the shallow sea. I have seen it in my dreams. Li Hongyuan almost instantly understood in his heart. Then let's verify whether they are the same in reality. After the official business is done, it is good enough that we can stay for a while. You still want to continue going south? Don't daydream. If we anger His Majesty, he will imprison us in the capital and not give us a chance to leave the capital. Then, the gains will not make up for the losses. It is not too late to discuss everything when you are fully in charge. Wan is so considerate. She can be arrogant because she is pampered. Why can't she be willful for once? Jingwan was helpless. It is not something that must be done. Even if I don't do it, I won't feel uncomfortable. So, why should I be willful? I am simply looking for trouble. Do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Don't always think of spoiling me. When the time comes, you will have a headache. Don't think about nonsense all day. Wan, do you mean that I am a 3-year-old child? After all, I am famous for being willful and doing whatever I want. Yes, you are self-aware. Jingwan nodded with a smile. Can a 3-year-old child consummate the marriage with you? Can a 3-year-old child do that with you anytime and anywhere? Jingwan subconsciously pinched him. This man's mouth was so dirty from time to time. Shut up. Don't misinterpret my meaning. Then what does Wan mean? Let me put it another way. Can a 3-year-old child ride a horse and tour the mountains and rivers with you? A 3-year-old child. Okay, you win. Pretend I didn't say anything. Jingwan would always lose in a war of words. If we don't take the waterway, is there still danger? It is obvious. Old dog Su may be so eager to save people now, but that is because as long as we are still in the territory of Tongzhou, no matter big or small, as long as something happens, they will not be able to escape responsibility. When the officials of the 4 counties in Jiangnan know that we left Kaming Prefecture in such a sorry state, who knows if they will not stop until they have evil intentions and can even frame Kaming Prefecture. Therefore, the waterway before reaching Chongzhou Prefecture on the canal is the real danger. Jingwan's heart tightened. Thinking carefully, it was indeed so. Then the people on the boat. Don't worry. They can handle it. Everything has been arranged accordingly. No matter what kind of sudden situation, there will not be a problem. That's good. Jingwan believed him. If he said there would not be a problem, then there would definitely not be a problem. Her mood also relaxed slightly. That's why I told you not to bring so many things. Now it's good. Forget about burning a part of it. The rest will most likely be fed to the fish. The fish do not have that ability. I have already had people move the things on the boat away. A new boat has long been prepared 30 li away from Chongzhou Prefecture. However, it is not an official boat, but a private boat. This prince had originally worked hard to build a boat that could swim freely on the waterway. The previous official boat was to shut the mouth of the one on the throne. If the changes were too much, it would make people feel that they had lost face. He would probably nag endlessly. Jingwan admired him for his meticulous planning. He had made arrangements early. What about his colleagues? Should they admire him for not forgetting to enjoy himself in a dangerous situation? Did he do it well? Not long after Jingwan and the others left, the many officials who had been paying attention to the governor's side courtyard, whether they were really drunk or not, had all sobered up and hurried to the ferry port. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653536. HTML. Click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. Bicken.com. Chapter 290. As for those officials who didn't know about this matter, when they heard this situation, they didn't dare to have the slightest bit of hesitation. Their hearts almost jumped to their throats. Everyone boarded the ship, freshened up and didn't appear again. None of the officials of Kai Ming Fu were able to board. Initially, when Governor Su wanted to follow, he was directly blocked by the dark half. Once again, just like the day when Jingwan and the others arrived at Kai Ming Fu, all the officials collectively turned into wooden stakes and stood there as punishment. But right now, their hearts were even more unbearable than that day. At that time, it was anger, impatience, and some uneasiness towards Jin Qinhuang because of the rumor. Now, more than 90% of the people were occupied by more than 90% fear. They stood respectfully and reverently, without the slightest bit of impatience. They were so quiet and silent, waiting for the reaction of Jin Qinhuang. But now, it seemed like it was preparing to give them the cold shoulder like the previous time. The longer they were given the cold shoulder, the more uncertain their hearts were. It was like there was a knife hanging above their heads. If it fell cleanly, whether they were dead or alive, it would immediately be seen. But the longer it was suspended, the deeper the fear in their hearts. That kind of torture was really hard to describe. Until the dawn of the fish belly appeared on the horizon, the ship finally seemed to have some movement. The officials who stood until their backs were sore immediately stood up straight, their bodies stretched taut, but there was still a sense of relaxation that finally came. However, the truth was that they thought too much. Because the person they wanted to see wasn't seen, the mooring rope that fixed the ship was also put away. What was going to happen was an obvious matter. At this moment, the faces of the officials were green and white. It was very wonderful. Could they stop it from leaving? No. Therefore, they could only watch the ship go far away. What kind of person was Jin Qin Wang, the living king of hell? The rumor about him was that he would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Moreover, no matter who it was, they would only seek revenge at the time. They had never heard of settling accounts after autumn. What was the situation now? Could it be that it was over? Thinking about it, they knew that it was absolutely impossible. This kind of matter that wanted his life, if he could just let it go like this, those brothers who were tormented by him until they hovered between life and death should have an opinion. Therefore, it could only be that Jin Qin Wang's anger had soared to the extreme and he would inevitably return to settle the score. Everyone knew that most of the time, when one was angered on the spot, the consequences might be more serious, but that was it. If he didn't say anything, you wouldn't know what he was going to do. You couldn't help but think about it, comforting yourself in the best way and scaring yourself in the worst way. That was absolute psychological pressure. For those who didn't know, they only knew that Jin Qin Wang's residence caught fire, and for those who knew, they didn't understand why the matter didn't succeed. It was only because Jin Qin Wang didn't say anything, they didn't have the time to go and understand the specific situation. The main character had already left in a rage, so now they should think of a way to solve the problem. After a brief understanding, almost everyone aimed at Governor Su. The governor's face was gloomy. Shouldn't the governor give me an explanation? Not only did he overstep his authority and meddle in his affairs, but he also spoiled his plan. Governor Su didn't get angry. When this official arrived, Wang Ye's side was almost settled. A light sentence, but it contained too much content. Now you should think carefully about how to explain to Jin Qin Wang and His Majesty. Jin Qin Wang is His Majesty's most beloved son. Don't think that Jin Qin Wang is fine and this matter can be easily brushed aside. This official will take his leave first. Please do as you wish. Governor Su flicked his sleeves and left. The governor's face became more and more ugly. Seeing the subordinates who followed Governor Su's sworn enemy, he wished he could chop them with a knife. However, they weren't of the same mind as him. Just like Governor Su's subordinates who were close to him, they kept each other in check and balance. So no matter how angry he was, he couldn't directly make a move. Specific situation. In fact, there were some things that everyone was well aware of. Even if they were grasshoppers on two ropes, they were essentially on the same boat as Kaming Fu. If the boat capsized, no one would have a good ending. So, he thought that there should still be a tacit understanding, but he didn't expect that the one with the surname Su would actually do such a thing. Although according to what the one with the surname Su said, if he didn't bring anyone, the final result would be the same. But in essence, it was obvious that he had set him up. This was absolutely intolerable. That general faced with the anger of his direct superior, he didn't show any unusual emotions and narrated the whole story in full detail. What about those daring bandits? As expected, he started to pin the blame on them. They were all executed. Between the bandits and himself, there was no need to consider who to choose. They wanted to assassinate the current prince, they deserved to die. The governor put on a strong front and said, but in his heart, he was relieved. Fortunately, the one with the surname Su knew his limits. This official will personally investigate this matter and give Jin Qin Wang and His Majesty an explanation. I am equivalent to an official of Kaming Fu. Causing Jin Qin Wang to be frightened is a great sin. It is reasonable for me to take the initiative to ask for forgiveness from His Majesty. Jing Wan and Li Hongyuan took the land route and didn't rush through the night. They found a place and had a good sleep in the latter half of the night. When they woke up in the morning, they were full of energy and at the same time, they heard the news that their boat had left Kaming Fu. Everything was going according to plan. After a little preparation, they also set out on their journey. Thinking that Luo Peisong might be worried, Jingwan wanted to send a letter with him. Although Li Hongyuan was a little unhappy, he still sent someone. If there was no accident, after Luo Peisong woke up, he would be able to see the letter before he knew what happened at the bee courtyard. In terms of speed, the boat was definitely faster than the horse. However, the horse would be limited by physical strength and the land route would also be limited by the terrain. In comparison, the boat and the canal had a bigger advantage. Thus, the group of people on the canal would be much faster than the group of people on the land. According to the time, if they took the water route, it would take less than 2 days to travel from Kaming Fu to Chongzhou Fu. If they took the land route, it would take about 4 to 5 days. Of course, this was the relatively normal speed. Thus, on the second day, which was the 7th day of the new year, the people on the land route received the news from the water route. As expected, they were attacked. Jingwan looked at the letter that was only a few words and slightly frowned. This is earlier than expected? But isn't there something wrong with these water bandits? The canal connects the north and south and is very important. There are countless branches and countless ships coming and going. The safety along the way should be very important. Why would there be water bandits? In fact, there have always been water bandits in that area. Among the ships that come and go, they don't dare to touch the relatively large fleets. The smaller private ships usually travel in groups, so there are usually no conflicts. However, those who are familiar with that area will usually pay some silver as payment for passage. Most of the time, there is peace. And when something happens, as the saying goes, officials will protect each other. Naturally, there will be collusion between officials and bandits to settle the matter. It is normal that there are no rumors about it. However, judging from the time, something must have happened when they entered that section. Making use of the water bandits is actually the most conventional method, but also the most unconventional method. After all, no matter how bold the water bandits are, they will not easily touch an official ship, especially my ship. Once they touch it, they must be prepared to be completely wiped out. The water bandits also have their families and there are many of them, young and old, unless someone promises them a good place to settle them, including household registration and land, to ensure that all of them live a worry-free life in the future, Jingwan continued. There are temptations and there are threats. However, from Li Hongyuan's point of view, it was possible that a third party had made a move and caused an unexpected situation. That's right, if there is a disagreement, I will destroy you. Anyway, it is natural for officials to suppress bandits. Then Yuan wants to release the news that we have been killed? How can such an inauspicious thing be released? Let nature take its course. Whatever news those people get will be what it is. It will be over when we reach Chongzhou Prefecture. Li Hongyuan had always been happy to laugh at other people's anxiousness, especially in this group of people who had deliberately plotted to kill him. Let's forget about the previous incident. This time, it is really uncertain whether we will live or die. Shouldn't we send a message to His Majesty and my grandparents? As for your grandparents, before they left the capital, I sent someone to inform them. If they hear any bad news, they don't need to pay attention to it and wait for 3 to 5 days. So, a certain someone had really arranged it long ago. However, Li Hongyuan only mentioned the Luo family and did not mention Lu Qingdi. Jingwan also did not mention it. Although he was her father-in-law, it was not a bad thing to let him worry about such a scum. Therefore, Jingwan also threw away all her worries and continued to move forward according to the predetermined route, treating it as a relatively fast journey. Although they did not bring many things, even if they were relatively complete in all aspects and there was not a single person missing to serve them, it was still not too comfortable. Jingwan pretended to be angry and complained that Li Hongyuan had raised her more and more delicate. Li Hongyuan shamelessly expressed that even if she was a tiger daughter from a general's family, after marriage, she should become more and more delicate in certain areas. Otherwise, it must be that her husband was not good enough and he was good enough. Then, it was normal for his wife to be delicate. Where was his shame? He had eaten it himself 800 years ago. Speaking of which, the number of people in their group was not small. In the mighty group, other than the change in clothes, Li Hongyuan and Jing Wan did not appear much. Along the way, they did what they were supposed to do. It had nothing to do with the word low-key, but it did not attract any attention. Of course, it was not unrelated to the fact that they did not pass by any large cities along the way. On the 7th night of the new year, Li Hongyuan, who was sleeping soundly, was softly awakened. Jing Wan was sleeping in his arms. He did not move and only asked someone to deliver a letter to the carriage. Granny Gong passed the letter to Li Hongyuan and lit up a small lamp that could only illuminate a small area. Li Hongyuan quickly skimmed through the contents of the letter. Li Hongyuan's expression did not change. There was really a third party. Their entire ship was not ambushed, but openly surrounded by the other party in a relatively open area of the river. The other party's purpose was obviously not to kill, but to capture alive. It could even be said that it was an invitation. And looking at the situation, that was not the case. It seemed that they had been waiting for a long time. The letter was short and did not contain any details. It only roughly said that after weighing the pros and cons, they did not take action but followed them. The other party did not even touch anything on the ship. Instead, they directly sank the ship. After they were taken away, they were not treated rudely. In order to prevent them from knowing the destination, they only closed the cabin. They did not cover their eyes and did not tie their hands and feet. In the end, they entered a hidden water stronghold. They did not look like water bandits. Currently, they had not seen the main character. Therefore, the other party's purpose was not clear. The previous letter was sent when they discovered the abnormality. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, the second letter was sent after nightfall. Li Hongyuan burned the letter without saying a word. He waved his hand and dismissed Mama Gong. He leaned back and continued to sleep as if nothing had happened. Early in the morning of the 8th day of the new year, Li Hongyuan received another message. Jing Wan was eating breakfast. When she saw an E send the letter over, she casually asked. Li Hongyuan handed it to her. Because of this, Li Hongyuan drank a jar of vinegar. Because this letter did not come from the water stronghold. It came from Chongzhou Prefecture. It was about the provincial governor of Shannan County, Sun Yilin. Because Jing Wan showed a surprised expression. Li Hongyuan saw it and reached out to take the letter. After reading it, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. His eyes were malicious and he wanted to kill someone. He did stupid things without knowing anything and made people think that he was affectionate. The key was that he did not stop him and Wan saw it. Sure enough, he should have disappeared completely. That was why there was no chance to make his presence known. In the beginning, Sun Yilin was an official in the internal court. Later, he went west and made a great contribution. Later, someone wanted him to leave the capital. He was willing and left freely. Emperor Lu Chengdi liked him and treated him as a junior. Seeing that he wanted to contribute to Qi Yuan and could not bear to see him suffer, he appointed him as the provincial governor of Shannan County. He was a 6th-rank official and was responsible for patrolling. Shannan County was one of the 4 counties in Jiangnan. It was rich and prosperous. At least in material terms, he did not have to worry about him suffering. Although the provincial governor could not interfere with the local military and politics, because he was responsible for patrolling, he could directly report to the emperor. Therefore, although his position was not high, it was important enough. In addition, he was backed by Ding General Manor. Even the governor of Shannan County and the provincial governor were polite to him. Sun Yilin had been pampered since he was a child. Although he was not arrogant and had been exposed to many dirty things in Ding General Manor, he was still a master who did not care about sand in his eyes. Moreover, he lived a good life and did not lack money. In terms of beauty, Jing Wan was a cinnabar in his heart that could not be erased. No matter how beautiful a woman was, she was just a skeleton in his eyes. Therefore, he seemed to be a little stubborn. It was difficult to please and could not be bought. This was the same as Li Hongyuan. Because of this, Sun Yilin's job had not been very smooth. He had been in office for more than half a year, but he had not even finished visiting the prefectural city of Shannon County, not to mention the counties below. However, after the initial impatience, he gradually settled down. He was not in a hurry to make progress. Step by step, he adapted to the officialdom. Under the premise that he did not change his original intention, he feigned civility with people and adapted to the officialdom. On one hand, he looked on coldly from the sidelines. On the other hand, he gradually changed from passive to active. His whole person was growing rapidly. Except for his feelings for Jingwan, his whole person seemed to not be so pure anymore. When the matter of the college examination was exposed, because the initial source was not in Shannon County, and Sun Yilin himself was not enough to come into contact with those matters, he could only forcibly suppress the impatience in his heart. Then, from the letters in the capital, he found out that the salt policy was also involved. The amount was huge, and he knew the thorny degree of this matter. At one point, he calculated in his heart who would be appointed as the imperial envoy. After he found out that it was Jin Qin Wang and thoroughly investigated the matter, he was instead relieved. After all, he knew the true face of Jin Qin Wang. After thinking carefully in his heart, it seemed that there was no more suitable candidate than Jin Qin Wang. Because even if he secretly needed more money than the other princes, he did not lack it. Therefore, there was no need to start with the salt policy. This time, he happened to be in Chongzhou Prefecture. Thinking about it, he should know that it was not that he did not know that Jingwan was traveling with Li Hongyuan. In fact, it was better to not see her, but when he woke up, she was already in Chongzhou Prefecture. It was because after they arrived in Jiangnan, Chongzhou Prefecture was their first stop. If it was in other prefectures, he could not do anything. Since he had already come to this step, it was not good to turn around and go elsewhere. Sun Yilin could only repeatedly remind himself that if he could, it would be good to see her from afar and confirm whether Jin Qin Wang treated her well or not. Yes, that was all. Later, when he found out that they were staying in Kaming Prefecture, he felt disappointed and lost. Although he did not know what Li Hongyuan wanted to do, he was certain that they would definitely come to Jiangnan. But after waiting for a long time, the news that came made his liver and gallbladder almost split apart. First, there was the fire in Kaming Prefecture's side courtyard. After leaving Kaming Prefecture for less than a day, there was another incident. It was said that their whereabouts were unknown and that they did not know whether they were alive or dead. Sun Yilin pinched the clothes on his chest, as if he wanted to tightly hold his heart that was about to stop beating. He could not sit and wait for death. He had to do something, otherwise, he could not guarantee that he would not go crazy. Coming to Shannon Prefecture, no, that was not right. It should be the first time since he was born, the first time he showed absolute power. He requested to immediately send troops to search and rescue. At the same time, he wanted to exterminate the water bandits. Although they did not interact for a long time, but after Sun Yilin arrived at Chongzhou Prefecture, he behaved modestly and courteously, cultured and refined. He had a modest and gentlemanly demeanor, completely unlike a 1,000-year-old aristocratic family. That noble air was unquestionable. After he showed his absolute power, they were first shocked, then they felt that it was natural. However, this kind of matter of sending troops was not something that could be done with words. It required the governor's approval and the signing of a dispatch order. The governor was currently patrolling other places. There was no one in the prefecture capital. How could he send troops? Moreover, if Shannon Prefecture sent troops to Tongzhou Prefecture, it would cross the boundary of two prefectures. It would require the emperor's order, or the left and right governors to sign the dispatch order. If they sent troops privately, it would be against the rules. The relevant personnel would definitely be punished. Therefore, they first expressed their concern for Jin Qin Wang incisively and vividly, expressing that if needed, they would do their best. Then they listed all kinds of difficulties. Moreover, in their hearts, they hoped that Jin Qin Wang would die. In any case, he was not in their territory. If he died, they would not be implicated. Regarding their thoughts, Sun Yilin could not say that he completely understood, but he still had 70%. His heart was cold. These people should have all been cleaned up by Jin Qin Wang. What kind of temperament Jin Qinhuang is, this official is clearer than all the Darren. I am even clearer about his position in the Emperor's heart. If Jin Qinhuang really met with a mishap, there is no doubt that no matter if it was Tongzhou Prefecture or Shannon Prefecture, there would not be good fruit to eat. What's more, if Jin Qinhuang met with a mishap because the rescue was too late, the Emperor's anger would be even greater. Who could bear it? Could it be more serious than privately dispatching troops? It is true that Jin Qinhuang would seek revenge for the smallest grievance, but he also clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges. Saving him, how could there be no benefits? One sentence from him in front of the Emperor is better than 100 or 1,000 words from others. In addition, this official is willing to take responsibility for this matter. After this matter, this official will immediately make a statement to the Emperor. Even if you suffer a great loss, my Dingguo Gong Fu will double the compensation. Sun Yilin had no way to express his concern for Jingwan, so he could only use Jin Qinhuang as an excuse. To be honest, the one he cared about was obviously the person at the top of his heart, but he had to use his love rival as a shield. The bitterness in Sun Yilin's heart was really hard to describe. Those who didn't know would think that he cared a lot about Jin Qinhuang. The officials who understood the situation in the capital couldn't help but mutter a few words in their hearts. Jin Qinhuang didn't stand on any side, but in the end, he was Imperial Concubine Su's adopted son. Imperial Concubine Su and the Empress were sworn enemies. As the Empress's nephew, was it really good to be so worried about Jin Qinhuang? If they suffered a loss, Dingguo Gong Fu would compensate. Did your family's elders know? However, thinking about it was just thinking. What Sun Yilin said really moved them. In the salt policy, they did stretch out their hands, but what they received was just a small fraction. It was nothing to worry about. Sending troops to save Jin Qinhuang, regardless of whether they would see him alive or not, as long as they showed this attitude, it was enough to prove their sincerity. No matter how they thought about it, it was a matter of more advantages than disadvantages. After discussing with each other, they nodded. This matter was done. Chongzhou Prefecture's prefectural army was directly sent out 2,000 people. They boarded the warship and followed the canal out of Chongzhou Prefecture, crossed the border between the two prefectures, and entered Tongzhou Prefecture. And Sun Yilin, the provincial governor, also boarded the ship without hesitation and left Shannon Prefecture. Although he tried his best to suppress his worry, the people around him could more or less feel it. They couldn't help but mutter in their hearts and almost ran in some unspeakable direction. How could Sun Yilin still care about what they were thinking? He only hoped that nothing would happen to Jingwan. How could this kind of situation not make Li Hongyuan furious? Even now, he's still thinking about you. Wan, tell me, shouldn't this husband have cut him to death long ago? Should I chop him up and feed him to the dogs? Or should I just let him sink to the bottom of the water and feed him to the fishes? He said darkly. Before they got married, this man had already gone crazy because of Sun Yilin and Chen Jingmin, not to mention now that she basically knew where his minefield was. If she dared to say a word for Sun Yilin, not only Sun Yilin would be out of luck, she also wouldn't be able to escape. But if she didn't say anything, this man would say that she tacitly agreed with him. Perhaps Sun Yilin would really lose his life. Saying it wasn't right, not saying it wasn't right either. Jingwan wanted to curse. As her thoughts turned, Jingwan faintly hooked her lips. Propping up her chin, she calmly looked at Li Hongyuan. Ah Yuan, the one who should be angry should be me. We're the #1 gongzi in the capital, but the only thing that comes out of his mouth is you, Jin Qinhuang. My husband is being thought about by another man, he. Jingwan silently apologized to Sun Yilin in her heart. For the sake of everyone, you should temporarily take the blame for this. Probably because he didn't think that Jingwan would say this, Li Hongyuan was stunned for a moment. His anger and hostility dissipated a little, and he hooked his lips with a bit of wickedness. Wan, do you think so? Wan should be clear on how to deal with people who have designs on your husband. To a woman, you still have tender feelings for the fairer sex and are soft-hearted. This man shouldn't be like this, right? This husband looks forward to your performance. As the saying goes, when the virtue is 1 foot high, the devil is 10 feet high. Jingwan still couldn't beat him. It wasn't the first time that she lifted a stone to smash her own foot, but it was still better than him killing people. However, Jingwan's expression didn't change. Yuan means for me to go see him and personally deal with him. Wan's thinking is quite beautiful, but if you can stab him in the heart, I can bear it once. I'm sorry, I'm timid. So, why don't we both not see him and forget about it? So, the last is the most important. Li Hongyuan's hostility soared again. Jingwan didn't care if there were outsiders around, and hurriedly rushed over to hug him. Yuan, we're fine. Can you not talk about others? She buried her face in his neck. I'm yours, and only yours. No matter what others think or do, this won't change, so, can you? If you know that another woman thinks about your husband all day long, that woman used to be your husband's fiancée, and that she rushed to the front when your husband was in trouble, as if she was the one who cared about your husband the most in the world, tell me, Wan, how do you feel? Li Hongyuan pinched Jingwan's chin and asked coldly. Jingwan's face darkened. Damn, this trick of putting herself in his shoes was really too powerful. Jingwan was speechless. However, after a moment, Jingwan still expressed her opinion. Although I'm very unhappy, the other party didn't do anything disgusting, and I don't want her life. If it were me, I would show off my love in front of her and make her retreat. Good idea. https://www.beacon.com/11/11807/6653539. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is free. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.beacon.com. Beacon. Com Mobile Edition Reading Website. Beacon.com. Chapter 291. Good idea. Hearing Li Hongyuan's 3 words full of interest, Jingwan's little heart trembled. What the hell was showing off affection? She definitely didn't mean that. She was probably just standing in her own position and didn't think much before speaking. If she showed off, it would at most be a vague expression. If she let this bastard show off, Jingwan simply couldn't imagine how immoral that scene would be. It would definitely be used as a negative example by secular dogma. If it was seen by those old pedantic people, they would not care about your identity and criticize you. Well, this bastard still had some sense of propriety. How could he let others see such a private thing? But if he really met Sun Yilin, to be honest, it was originally a one-sided love. The person he loved was still intimately with another person in front of him. How painful would it be in his heart? If the love was lighter, he might be able to let it go after being stimulated like this. But what if it was bitter love? That was definitely like using a blunt knife to slash at the heart. It was torturous and was undoubtedly an unprecedented form of torture. For a person who endured and restrained his feelings, tried his best not to cause trouble to others, and had no malicious intentions, wasn't this kind of behavior a bit cruel? Jingwan didn't know how deep Sun Yilin's feelings for her were. Judging from his attitude, it was probably not shallow. Jingwan herself didn't like to bear such a one-sided love. If she deliberately hurt the other party, she wouldn't feel good in her heart. This was definitely not what she wanted. Jingwan simply wanted to cry but had no tears. She knew what kind of virtue this bastard had. Why didn't he speak well and still think about it? Sure enough, it was because of trust that he blurted out what he couldn't say. This was undoubtedly a trap for Sun Yilin. Most likely, Chan Zhengmin would also be added. Wasn't this a trap for herself? Moreover, this person, if too much stimulation, may do irrational things, commonly known as evil. Who would want to see such a situation? Yuan, how about we make a deal? Can you? Wan and I are in love, and we don't want others to know. Is our love something that can't be seen? Li Hongyuan said faintly as he gently rubbed Jingwan's back. Jingwan's scalp was numb. She didn't know whether Sun Yilin would turn evil or not. She only knew that this second in front of her could make him go crazy. If she folded her waist, this matter would be over. She was willing to risk it, but obviously, it wouldn't be over so easily. If she really gave up land and paid compensation to him for Sun Yilin, not only would this fire not be extinguished, but it would also burn more and more. She had never thought that there would be a day when she would court death herself. Jingwan leaned on his shoulder and pretended to be dead. I didn't say anything. Anyway, they were together almost every day and night. Instead of avoiding meeting Sun Yilin, she just had to keep an eye on him. Jingwan had no choice but to admit defeat once again. If it was anything else, she might be able to ride roughshod over him. But when it came to matters like this, if she were to be tough, the result would definitely be disastrous. The people who would be affected would definitely not be just one or two people. Taking a step back could resolve the crisis and even save their lives. She wouldn't suffer any losses either, so why not? This bastard was so unscrupulous because he knew this point of hers. Knowing this, she couldn't change it. It was a dead knot. In fact, the only breakthrough in this matter was Sun Yilin. That was, he would find his true love and take back all the feelings he had invested in her. Then, everything would be fine. However, this kind of thing was easy to say and difficult to say. It was easy to say that the right person would appear at the right time, but it was difficult to say that this person might not appear for the rest of her life. Otherwise, whoever had the water of forgetfulness could give her a dozen and make Sun Yilin drink it all. Li Hongyuan didn't say anything else. He quietly hugged Jingwan and let her eat more. Probably only he himself knew what he was thinking. When it was time to set off, Li Hongyuan told Jingwan that their route had changed. They didn't go directly to Chongzhou Prefecture, but to the water bandits' stronghold. He explained the ins and outs of the matter. Originally, according to the plan, when the people on the waterway were attacked, they would abandon the boat and counterattack. They would basically be fine. Then, they would wait at the place designated by Li Hongyuan. When the people on the land arrived, the matter of Li Hongyuan having an extra doppelganger could be simply erased. Some things could continue to be hidden and they could continue to maintain a lower level of vigilance towards Li Hongyuan. But now, that group of people had entered someone else's territory. If he directly appeared in Chongzhou Prefecture, some things would be in vain. Moreover, there was a 90% chance that he would be sent back by Emperor Lu Qingdi's imperial edict. From then on, he would withdraw all his favor and maintain a high level of vigilance. He might even dig up all the past matters and directly push Li Hongyuan to the bottom of the valley. Li Hongyuan himself didn't care. At most, some things would be brought forward. But his sweetheart. This time, how could it not be because of Jingwan that they split into two groups? Li Hongyuan didn't want her to be associated with any danger. If Jingwan wasn't by his side, he would certainly have personally gone into battle. A white blade in, a red blade out. Just thinking about it made him excited. Ever since he married Jingwan, his entire person had indeed become much more peaceful. Furthermore, the target of those water bandits was clearly him. Using such a method to invite people made him both interested and angry. Who is the other party? Isn't it said that officials and bandits are colluding? Looking at the current situation, it didn't seem like the case. It can be true that officials and bandits are colluding. When one side doesn't want to play, they can disband. However, looking at the current situation, not many people know the true situation. Besides, if they can collude on the surface, they can also feign compliance in secret. As for who it is, in the entire Jiangnan, other than those in the officialdom, who else does Wan think would plot against me? With this reminder, Jingwan immediately thought of a possibility. The Pei family? Who knows? Perhaps the bandit leader is extremely daring and suddenly has a greedy idea. He wants to use this prince to ask for money from the imperial court. Originally, Jingwan was still worried that it wouldn't be good to just go to the water bandits' lair. After all, it was dangerous. In the end, it was downplayed like it was just a vacation. Li Hongyuan stroked Jingwan's hair. The last possibility is too small. If they really have this idea, the nearest Chongzhou prefecture has already received the exact news, so this matter isn't dangerous. There are some things that I have to deal with myself. A substitute won't do. Jingwan nodded. If it's really the Pei family, you do have to deal with it yourself. However, the Pei family is known as the wealthiest family in Jiangnan. In fact, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they are the wealthiest family in the entire Qi Yuan. Don't they feel that they are degrading themselves by colluding with these water bandits? Can an aristocratic family survive just based on their loftiness alone? What is the foundation? Cultural foundation is only a small part of it. Antiques, expensive calligraphy, and paintings, all kinds of things that are called elegant. One or two of them may be obtained by relying on one's reputation, but tens of thousands of them, in the end, still rely on money as the foundation. Whether it is to cultivate famous scholars or noble ladies, the word money is indispensable. Moreover, it is quite expensive. Although most of the people who are cultivated by this thing regard money as dung and feel that it stinks of money, if they really run out of money, they can still be free and aloof, and it can be said that they are worse than beggars. Jingwan actually had a deep understanding of Li Hongyuan's words. However, if one were to say that in the entire Qi Yuan, no one would dare to say that they were the second in number of men who were piled up by mountains of gold and silver. Jingwan was quite surprised to hear these words coming from his mouth. You. Wan, what do you want to say? You can speak frankly. Li Hongyuan was never worried that Jingwan would suspect anything. He basically didn't hide anything in front of her. In his opinion, it was just a matter of time before she found out or exposed him. Are you talking about yourself, Yuan? You're sleeping on a mountain of gold and silver, yet you still complain that it's uncomfortable. Jingwan raised her eyebrows leisurely. It's slightly different. I know very well where I stand. I also admit that many people in aristocratic families can't see clearly. They think that food and clothing fall from the sky. Therefore, since there are people who are wantonly squandering like this, there naturally has to be someone who manages it. I suddenly admire the head of the Pei family from the bottom of my heart. That's right. People like bandits could be said to be lowly people, but they could still lower their status to come into contact with them. This kind of person was truly adaptable and was quite terrifying. To a certain extent, he is also your grandfather. Jingwan was slightly stunned. Indeed, the head of the Pei family was Li Hongyuan's grandfather in terms of bloodline. She was his wife, so naturally, she took after him. Speaking of which, in ordinary families, even if it was a high-ranking official or a noble, only the family of the wife was considered the official family of all the children. This included the children of concubines. If the family of a concubine recognized the family of a concubine as the official family, it was not appropriate and there were no rules and etiquette. The only exception was the royal family. The family of a prince was based on the family of his birth mother or adoptive mother, and not the family of the empress. If it's really him and the Pei family is plotting something against you, will a Yuan agree to it? The biggest plot of the Pei family is nothing more than to return to the imperial court. Although Qi Yuan is going downhill, it hasn't reached the point where it can be overthrown. No matter how much the Pei family is working hard, they don't have a strong power. They rely on their connections to maintain their superior status. In a short period of time, they can still occupy a dominant position. After a long time, they are bound to become a vassal. The Pei family can no longer maintain their rightful position. It's inevitable that they are anxious. If they want to use me, they have to first see my mood and then see what bargaining chips they have. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653551. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition. Chapter 292. Jingwan saw that he had a card up his sleeve. Originally, he had brought her to avoid the ship, but now he was going to meet it directly. Thinking that there was indeed no danger, she felt relieved. Although it was a change of route, but to Jingwan, who was completely unfamiliar with the route, it was actually not a bad thing. Just like that, another day passed. Jingwan saw the big ship that Li Hongyuan had mentioned. It was not inferior to the official ship that they had been on previously. Just from the appearance alone, it was better. As for the things inside, it was needless to say. Li Hongyuan said that most of the things that they had brought with them had been transferred, and that was really the case. From this point, it was enough to see that Li Hongyuan's manpower was absolutely beyond expectations, and it was under the noses of so many people. Of course, the current location of the big ship was not the original location, nor was it at any of the ferry ports. It was not difficult to get up there, because this was not just a big ship, but an entire fleet. The entire fleet was a private ship that had nothing to do, and it was enough to make the merchant ships gnash their teeth. They had painstakingly filled the entire ship with goods and wished that there was not even a place to step on, but you dragged it out for a leisurely stroll. This was the typical style of a rich young master, doing nothing and enjoying everything. How could it not be hated? Therefore, along the way, this fleet of ships made many people angry, and they simply wished that they could burn the ship directly. Naturally, Li Hongyuan did not care about what others thought. After boarding the ship, they continued to travel along the canal, and after about 4 hours, they arrived at the predetermined destination. The river was indeed very wide, and it seemed that somewhere nearby, there should be another branch that happened to converge. However, other than the main river, the surrounding area was covered with aquatic plants, and further away, there were large patches of reeds. To be honest, this place really had the geographical advantage. However, in this way, how could they find the whereabouts of the other party? Other than the upper and lower reaches of the main river, it could be in any direction. Just when Jingwan was so confused, she saw an eagle come out from the dark. It wasn't big, had a golden beak and claws, and shiny black feathers, but it looked very spirited. It stood on An Yi's arm and turned its head from time to time. An Yi fed it a piece of raw meat, then it shook its arm gently, spread its wings, and flew up. Jingwan watched as it circled above her head once more before flying off in a certain direction. Then, the entire fleet headed in that direction. Jingwan looked at it curiously. She didn't know what breed this eagle was, but it was the first time she knew that an eagle also had this ability. Li Hongyuan stood next to Jingwan. Seeing that she was looking at it curiously, he gave her a little science lesson. Jingwan basically didn't understand the professional things. The part she understood could be summed up in 2 words: a messenger eagle. It required a considerable amount of training, and the success rate was very low. However, as long as the training was successful, it was very easy to use. Its speed was fast, and there was basically no sound when it took off and landed. The most important point was that it knew how to conceal itself, which sounded very high and mighty. The one on top of her head had already followed Li Hongyuan for 3 years. Pigeons were located by sensing magnetic fields, and eagles were also based on the same principle? She had never heard of it before. Why did she feel that it was a bit unscientific? Well, a lot of things were unscientific. For example, her existence. I only know about messenger pigeons. Jingwan said. Messenger pigeons are indeed more commonly used, but it's not very safe to use them. That's right, the things that Li Hongyuan did were basically done through secret channels. How could there be pigeons flying around Jin Wangfu all day long? It was hard not to attract attention. Her own husband said that this eagle's speed was very fast, but because Jingwan deliberately paid attention, there was always a fist-sized shadow above her head. Was this to coordinate with their speed? Along the way, the river gradually narrowed. Seeing that the largest boat could no longer continue forward, Li Hongyuan did not hesitate to order a change of boats. And this time, they all changed to the smallest boats. However, this way it seemed that it was a bit insufficient. Then, Jingwan found that she was thinking too much. It turned out that under each boat, there was a hidden warehouse. Piled inside were all small boats. It was simply like an emergency lifeboat. To tell the truth, Jingwan was more or less shocked. Humans, no matter what period, could not be underestimated. Who knew when there would be an industrial revolution? The small boats were very small, more or less the type of one-leaf boat. Each boat could basically only accommodate 6 to 8 people. Li Hongyuan did not bring Jingwan onto other boats. Instead, he directly boarded the small boat. Holding hands, they stood on the boat. Behind them, other than the two who rowed the boat, there was only an Yi and Li Suyen. That's right, Li Suyen had been following them, including the more than 50 black-clothed guards he brought. To the outside, it was clearly hidden well, but everything was exposed under the eyes of the eagle and hound on the throne. Was there really no problem? Jingwan even suspected that this Li Suyen was also one of this man's subordinates. Li Hongyuan's answer was not. He was very certain and did not hesitate at all. Then why? Li Hongyuan just smiled and did not say anything. He only said that Li Suyen was a bit interesting and did not say anything else. Jingwan gave him a supercilious look and did not ask any more questions. The boat that Li Hongyuan and Jingwan were on was in the middle position. Their left, right, and back were occupied by the other boats. Compared to the other boats, the boats were at the outermost periphery, moving forward in such a grandiose manner. To be honest, with such a formation, if the water bandits were somewhere nearby, there was no way they wouldn't notice them. This was clearly telling the other party that there were guests at their door. Moreover, with one look, it was obvious that they were not good people. After half an hour, Jingwan and the others actually sailed into a lake. Although it was not very big, this was not the main point. The main point was that there were big and small boats on the surface of the water. There were small boats like theirs, but they looked much worse. There were also many boats with canopies. The one that looked most magnificent was just a house on top. Although the people on those boats were not as well trained as Li Hongyuan's people, they were all holding weapons and waiting solemnly. They had not seen the situation on Li Hongyuan's side clearly, but they had already used their 1,000 Li eyes to see the other side thoroughly. They were getting closer and closer. Perhaps they finally saw the faces of the two most conspicuous people. One after another, they were shocked. When they were only a few zhong away, Li Hongyuan finally raised his hand and the fleet stopped. Li Hongyuan looked at the other indifferently. You have some guts. Jin Qin Wang. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653552. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition Reading Website Bicken.com. Chapter 293. Jin Qin Wang. Your eyes can't be considered blind. Li Hongyuan's expression did not change, his tone did not change, but there was a kind of coldness and arrogance. Moreover, it was condescending, high and mighty. Even if they only had half the number of people, he completely did not put them in his eyes. This was not deliberately brought out, but more like he was born this way, he had this kind of capital. Although it was very infuriating, it seemed that there was nothing much to say. As long as they were not stupid, they should more or less know what was going on. Originally, they thought that things would go smoothly, but now it seemed that it was actually a joke. The main character not only knew that they were the ones who invited people, but also swaggered to their door. That's right, they were not waiting for them to welcome them. They had reason to believe that if they did not find out in advance that they were standing at the doorstep, these people would have directly barged into the inner residence. This more or less made them break out in cold sweat. If these people were to annihilate their officers and soldiers, then they would be completely annihilated. They had always thought that they hid it very well. It was just that this person was really unexpected. However, because of this, their own nest should not be in any danger? Well, this was probably temporary. It was hard to predict what would happen in the future. After all, Jin Qinhuang's temperament was mostly heard, but from the body double, it should be able to reflect a bit. As a body double, it was natural to learn from the body double. Therefore, the original owner was definitely better than the body double. In fact, with just a face-to-face meeting, this feeling was already incomparably clear. When they saw that substitute, they had a kind of feeling that he was indeed worthy of being the son of the emperor. Even if he was notorious, it was still difficult to conceal his magnificent bearing. However, when they saw the main character, suddenly it was a second-rate good. Compared to the original product, it was definitely not just a grade lower. Therefore, on the 5th night of the new year, Jin Qinhuang used the special environment at that time to not give Governor Su of Kai Ming Fu a chance to come into contact with him directly. That was why it did not arouse suspicion. If it was slightly closer, in front of people like Governor Su, it would inevitably be exposed. Li Hongyuan, this person, even if one understood everything about him, it was impossible to completely imitate him. At most, it would be similar in appearance and spirit. That would be a joke. Anyone who was familiar with him, as well as those who had slightly interacted with him, would be able to see through him in seconds. After confirming the identity of Li Hongyuan, the leader had already sent someone back to report that the real person was here. Naturally, whatever the other side said was useless. However, the current situation was a little tricky. Previously, they still held the initiative, but now it was completely different. And in the water stronghold, the scholarly old man who was talking amiably with Jin Qinhuang seemed to be an old acquaintance who had known each other for many years. Even if the other party remained silent, or even treated him with indifference, his expression did not change. However, a youth hurriedly came in and whispered a few words into the old man's ear. His face suddenly changed as he turned back to look at Jin Qinhuang. Not Jin Qinhuang? Since the person who was chosen to occasionally make a guest appearance in the house was naturally not stupid. Naturally, he could instantly guess what might have happened. Most likely, the master had come to find him. Jin Qinhuang sneered. "Who told you that I am?" A trace of emotion flashed past the old man's eyes, and then it returned to calmness. That's right. They had never directly sought confirmation, but naturally assumed that he was. The result, was it considered as being played by someone? That was also because they were the ones who went up. Who could they blame? However, the real person himself had come to find him, so it was not considered a failure. It was just that the advantage that they had built before was completely overturned. On the contrary, the person who invited the other party still needed to give the other party an explanation. After all, to be able to make a substitute, one would know that there might be some kind of plan. Now that they had interfered, who knew what the consequences would be? If it was himself, no matter whether there were serious consequences or not, his heart would probably not be happy. Since your master has come, I think you should also go and greet him. The old man stroked his beard. Go together? Jin Qinhuang did not say a word, directly got up and walked outside. Of course, from the moment he entered here, he had never been made difficult. At this time, he made a secret signal, and their original people quickly appeared one after another. Perhaps through the secret signal, they had already understood something. The originally seemingly ordinary people, one by one, revealed an extraordinary imposing manner, including the woman with Jingwan's face, including those several servant girls, including the crowd of odd-job workers. They were all like swords, hiding their sharpness. The old man who followed them out was secretly shocked. These people, no matter how he looked at them, were not the role of ordinary imperial guards. Yu Zhongqing heard the movement and was the last one to appear. What happened? Master has arrived. Jin Qinhuang was concise and comprehensive. Yu Zhongqing lightly frowned. How can Wang Ye put himself in danger? Obviously, he did not approve of such behavior. Jin Qinhuang looked back. Someone claims to be Master's maternal grandfather, the head of Jiangnan's #1 family, the Pei clan. Yu Zhongqing's eyes flashed with surprise. The head of a clan, before the matter is confirmed, he easily revealed his identity, and in this kind of place, it is very suspicious. The old man's face was a bit green. This time, it was indeed his mistake, and it almost caused very serious consequences. In the end, it was still Pei Clan's current situation that was not optimistic. He was too anxious. However, he really did not think that his good grandson would play this trick. The one who was fooled was far from the only one. But thinking about this now was superfluous. The advantage did not exist, he should think of a way to regain it. However, this grandson seemed to be more capable than the rumors. This was a double-edged sword, weakening his own advantage, but it also meant that he had more value. What value? It was naturally the value of being used. The old man went out, and there were so many people who looked quite dangerous. Many people were not at ease following, not to mention those attendants. Li Hongyuan had never been a good-tempered person. Now that he was waiting for people, the surrounding temperature seemed to be whizzing down. That gaze, it seemed that just looking at you made him tremble uncontrollably. Even those who thought that they had experienced great winds and waves, at this moment, could not stop their scalp from tingling and their hands from sweating. The head of the clan is here. The people who were still waiting solemnly quickly separated, only to see a large number of small boats arrive. The leading boat was quite similar to Li Hongyuan's boat. Only the people standing on it, when they saw Li Hongyuan, were directly stunned. He did not look like a head of the clan who held great power. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653554. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is exempted. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 294. On the other hand, Li Hongyuan's subordinates behind him, who had previously given Li Hongyuan some face and sat quietly on the small boat at the back, now sped up and gathered in front of Li Hongyuan in an orderly manner. They knelt down on one knee and said, "Your subordinates greet the two masters." Luwen Shao. "No need for formalities," Li Hongyuan said lightly. He got up and steered the small boat to slide to the sides, standing on both sides and waiting for orders. Jingwan's attention was on the old man at first, but when she heard how these people addressed her, she raised her eyebrows slightly and smiled, accepting their greetings with pleasure. She originally wanted to see what her and Li Hongyuan's double looked like, but unfortunately, the disguise on the face was gone. She could only tell who it was from the clothes. Just by looking at the figure, it was indeed more than 90% similar. What caught her attention was not Li Hongyuan's double, but her own. She and Li Hongyuan had been married for more than 2 months. In such a short time, was it possible to create a very similar double? Or was it possible that she was already preparing before? But was it possible? After all, acting as a stunt double was different from filming in her previous life, where she only needed to look at her back. Not only did she have to look good, but she also couldn't reveal any flaws in small details or habits to be considered perfect. He had only seen her a few times before they got married, so how much could he know about her? Therefore, she expressed doubts about the perfection of this double. Perhaps she was thinking too much. It did not need to be so perfect. As long as it could fool people who were not familiar with it, it would be enough. If there was a chance, she would take a look. Now was not the time to talk about this. Yu Zhongqing then stepped forward. Greetings to Prince and Princess. Although he did not approve of Li Hongyuan's appearance, it was a foregone conclusion. In addition, the current situation did not allow it, so he did not say much. No need for formalities. Lord Yu has worked hard these days. Li Hongyuan was quite amiable. Even Jing Wan was a little surprised. Since when did he become a normal, or rather, an ordinary prince? Your Highness is too kind. It's not hard at all. In fact, It really wasn't hard at all. Although his duty on this trip was to follow orders to protect and monitor Jin Qin-Wang, in fact, he only needed to act according to Jin Qin-Wang's orders. And as the saying goes, every profession has its own specialization. Therefore, he basically had nothing to do on this trip and was more leisurely and carefree than in the palace. "You may leave." "Yes." Then, Li Hongyuan finally gave the old man face and looked at him. Their eyes met, and the atmosphere was inexplicably heavy. Many people did not dare to breathe loudly. From Jingwan's point of view, it seemed like they were competing to see who would lose their cool first. "Your Highness has already grown up and is married. I'm sure you have a few children by now." The old man's face was filled with emotion. His tone was not forceful, and was even warm. However, it was obvious that he regarded himself as an elder. In his eyes, Li Hongyuan was the child he had not seen for a long time. He felt gratified, but also guilty. At this moment, Jingwan's favorable impression of this person plummeted. To be honest, she was disgusted. For more than 20 years, you didn't ask about anything. Now that you met for the first time, you had this kind of virtue. Who do you think you are? You really think you're someone important? Don't say that this Li Hongyuan's birth mother was expelled by your Pei clan. There was no relationship between the two of you. Even if you want to forcefully establish a relationship, don't forget that he is a prince, a Qin Wang. And you, in essence, are just a commoner. When you meet, you still have to pay your respects. Moreover, if you really wanted to return to the imperial court and regain control of power, making the name of Pei clan live up to its name, and this grandson who was blood-related to Pei clan was listed as the most important link, then you would definitely pay attention to his situation. But now, it seemed like you didn't know anything. This child or whatever, it was specially said to disgust her. However, when she thought about it, the most important thing for a clan was the flourishing of branches and leaves. It was simply a place that specialized in producing studs. It was normal for the clan to have a large number of wives and concubines. Their requirements for their wives were probably more virtuous than the empress. After all, the Li royal family was less than 100 years old and was born as a peasant. In terms of etiquette, they were probably despised by these aristocratic families. And the madam of an aristocratic family was naturally the model of etiquette and etiquette. Otherwise, she would definitely not be able to hold on to her position. According to the information that Jingwan learned from Li Hongyuan, his mother was completely abandoned at that time. She was penniless and alone. Just think about it, if there was even a little bit of affection, he would think carefully for her, give her some money, and arrange a few people to take care of her. Lu Chengdi liked her. How could he refuse those? Even if she was with Lu Chengdi, who was not the emperor at that time, she didn't have to worry about food and clothing. But this was not the key point. The key point was his intention. How hurtful it was to be so cold and heartless. Now that he was in need, he came up again and acted as if nothing had happened. He was really shameless to this extent. Li Hongyuan might be shameless, but he played fair and square. He even took it for granted and never denied it. But this person clearly did the most disgusting thing, but he insisted on standing on the highest point of morality and flaunting himself as a saint. He was more disgusting than the most despicable villain. Li Hongyuan raised the corner of his mouth and sneered, "No one in the whole Qi Yuan dares to speak to me in this tone. Where did you come from? How dare you flaunt your seniority in front of me?" The old man choked. He probably didn't expect that he would be so rude, but his expression didn't change. He just sighed slightly with a little indulgence and helplessness. "Your Highness, I'm your grandfather, the patriarch of the Pei family in Jiangnan. Your mother is my only legitimate daughter. I don't know if His Majesty has told you this before." "Grandfather? The Pei family in Jiangnan? I only know that my mother is an unknown orphan. She was only conferred the title of Imperial Noble Consort because she was deeply favored by His Majesty." "When did she have a maternal family?" The patriarch of the Pei family showed his anger at the right time. It was obvious that he wasn't targeting Li Hongyuan. He looked at him with great affection. When the Qi Yuan was first established, the Pei family withdrew from the imperial court and swore not to have anything to do with the Li family. Back then, His Majesty hadn't ascended the throne yet. He was running errands in Jiangnan and happened to see your mother. He took a fancy to her beauty. He didn't care that your mother was waiting to be married and took her by force. As he spoke, his voice was full of grief. We're sorry for your mother. We're sorry for you. Li Hongyuan's face was full of mockery. If it were anyone else, they might have felt a little emotional. Unfortunately, not only did Li Hongyuan understand the cause and effect of everything, he was also a cold-hearted person. He had already learned about this so-called grandfather of his in his previous life. However, at that time, he had already ascended the throne and this person's attitude was relatively humble. Moreover, his temper was quite bad at that time. He was the kind of person who would chop people's heads off if they didn't agree with him. Naturally, this person didn't dare to put on airs and put on airs. When he found out that the person he had invited before was just a substitute, he had already expected that it would be more difficult to move his grandson than he had expected. Originally, he did not think that he could succeed with just a few words. If it really succeeded, he would be disappointed. Therefore, he only showed some sadness at being treated like this by his own grandson. While the difficulty of the matter increased, Clan Head Pei was actually quite happy. This meant that this grandson of his was not as unambitious as he appeared to be on the surface. Only with ambition would he have a chance, and only with ambition would the Pei family have a chance. He believed that the benefits brought by the Pei family would not be rejected by any prince who coveted the throne. Jingwan had seen many acting emperors, but to be honest, this clan head Pei, who she met for the first time, made her feel inexplicably disgusted. Your Highness, you must be tired from the journey. Rest for a while. As for the rest, we can slowly talk about it later. What do you think? Seeing that Li Hongyuan didn't seem to be moved, Clan Head Pei smiled. Your Highness, you came personally and even directly came here. I don't think you just want to bring your people back. So, I know what you're thinking. Don't be pretentious. Regardless of whether your mother is the daughter of the Pei family on the surface, that blood relationship can't be severed. Your Highness, don't you think so? Your Highness, this concubine is also a bit tired. Why don't this concubine rest? This concubine has heard that the imperial noble consort is a peerless beauty. I don't know how peerless her beauty is, but I also want to know a thing or two. Your Highness also wants to know, right? Jingwan laughed softly. A strange look flashed across Clan Head Pei's eyes. What does Your Highness Wang Fei want to know? This old man will definitely tell you everything. Li Hongyuan frowned slightly. He didn't comment on Clan Head Pei's words and only glanced sideways at Jingwan. Fine. Clan Head Pei was overjoyed. With a wave of his hand, the boats behind him quickly parted. The small boat he was on also moved to the side and made a pleased gesture. Aside from Clan Head Pei's small boat, Li Hongyuan's men still occupied the surrounding area. Along the way, Clan Head Pei tried to talk to Li Hongyuan, but was ignored. He didn't get angry and settled for the next best thing. He started to chat with Jingwan. He was older than Luo Peishan and was also an elder. In essence, he just wanted to know about his grandson's situation, so it wasn't considered rude. Jingwan knew that if she were to argue with such a person, there was a 90% chance that she would lose completely. Therefore, she decided to tell him everything she knew. She would tell him everything she knew in detail, and anything else, she would just use "I don't know" to brush him off. There was nothing she could do. After all, he hadn't been in the capital for a long time. Clan Head Pei basically knew everything that Jingwan said. Because Jingwan's answers were too natural and he couldn't find any fault with them, he didn't know if Jingwan really didn't know or if she was faking it. However, his opinion of Jingwan had changed. He originally thought that she was just an ordinary woman who couldn't be compared to his Pei clan's daughter. Thus, from the beginning, he had basically ignored her. Now, it seemed that her bearing and self-restraint were excellent. She spoke in a calm and generous manner and was neither servile nor timid. Standing beside his grandson, she was extremely compatible. Regardless of whether her influence on his grandson was real or if the husband and wife were singing the same tune, her original plan had to be changed. After collecting the well-known information, Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan meaningfully and asked about the imperial noble consort. Clan head Pei understood tacitly and naturally talked about his beloved daughter. She was chaste, gentle, considerate, and kind. She was proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, songs, and so on. She was well versed in writing and even wrote history books. There was no need to talk about her beauty. Since she was young, there were countless people who wanted to marry her and almost broke the threshold. As he spoke, he revealed a sorrowful and melancholy expression. It's better for this woman's appearance to be mediocre. Otherwise, why would she be separated from her flesh and blood and not want to see her again? He spoke with unwillingness and sorrow, hiding his deep hatred. It was only because he couldn't control himself that he revealed a little. Jingwan sighed softly in her heart. His acting skills were superb. If she didn't know the truth, Jingwan felt that she would most likely be touched. He said so much just to play the emotional card. However, it was really a pity that he met such an extraordinary man like Li Hongyuan. Whether it was Lu Chengdi, imperial noble consort Su, or his birth mother, all his feelings for these people had been wiped clean in his previous life. Although he once wondered if he would be in a different situation if his birth mother was still alive, he didn't feel anything even after he found out that his father killed his mother because he was a foreigner, much less now. In clan head Pei's opinion, Li Hongyuan really wanted to know everything about his mother. However, perhaps it was because of the resentment of abandoning him that he didn't want to open his mouth and ask, so he borrowed his wife's mouth. However, clan head Pei couldn't see any clues from his face, so he couldn't be sure. Just as Jingwan was about to say something, Li Hongyuan suddenly said, "Enough." Although he was a little cold, compared to others, he was still much better. As the saying goes, act to act. Jingwan stared blankly, then immediately smiled and said, "If Wang Ye doesn't want to listen, you can choose not to listen, but Chier is very interested." Li Hongyuan sneered at her. He said he is the Pei clan's clan head, so he is the Pei clan's clan head? You believe whatever he says. Wang Fei, when did you become so gullible? Not to mention that clan head Pei was choked. Jingwan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Who would joke about this? It's easy to verify whether this old gentleman is the Pei clan's clan head. Moreover, even if he ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, there's no reason to deceive you. Li Hongyuan coldly snorted. Jiangnan's #1 noble clan, the clan head is holed up in a water bandit's nest and still calls the wind and summons the rain. With the attitude of a big boss, he specializes in doing things like crowing chickens and stealing dogs? It doesn't matter if Jin Qin Wang insults us, but how can he insult the clan head? But just as his voice fell, someone angrily opened his mouth. Okay, so it wasn't suspicion, but ridicule. Clan head Pei raised his hand. Don't be rude to Wang Ye. Wang Ye has misunderstood. Although they bear the reputation of being water bandits, they have never done anything illegal. It's only because of some special reasons that they can't settle down in other places. Borrowing the name of water bandits, it's just that they need a place to settle down, that's all. Oh, this was doing a good deed. Li Hongyuan chuckled. This was real mockery. Based on the ability of Jiangnan's #1 noble clan, wouldn't they be able to arrange a group of troublesome people? Not to mention other things, even if it was an official slave, it wouldn't be too difficult to operate. Now that they've arranged a group of people here to be water bandits, it's just to deceive these people who have been used by you with bad intentions and are deeply grateful to you. Clan head Pei knew what Li Hongyuan meant, but he didn't care too much about this. This kind of thing, everyone was well aware. His explanation was for Li Hongyuan to hear. The main point was that these people didn't do bad things, that's all. As for whether they would do something else, perhaps, if they did, these water bandits wouldn't realize what they did, whether it was good or bad. Those who participated in the bloody struggle for the throne wouldn't be unable to see through this, so they simply didn't care. Arriving at the water stronghold, this was indeed a residence that was mostly built on water. It looked simple and unadorned, but as a whole, it had a different kind of charm. Jingwan quite liked it. Li Hongyuan disliked it very much. Standing in the largest and best room that was specially reserved for the clan head, Li Hongyuan casually swept a few glances. Someone come, go and unload the things from the boat. Jingwan wanted to face Palm. Wangya is preparing to stay here for a while? Stay for 2 days. Some people need to be given more time. Li Hongyuan said without any reservation. Jingwan didn't speak. In her view, some people should include Lu Chengdi, Imperial Concubine Su, Li Hongyuan's brothers, Tong Zhou, Shannon and even the entire Jiangnan officials, and Sun Yilin. Those who were anxious and worried were even more anxious and worried, those who were happy were twice as happy. The former gave them a surprise when they were on the brink of despair, the latter gave them a fatal blow when they thought they were finally safe. Facing such a capricious husband who loved to play with people, Jingwan could only sigh silently. Clan head Pei was quite happy and immediately ordered people to help. After all, according to his understanding, the things that this grandson needed were not just a little bit. At the same time, that big boat also needed to be concealed a little. It was too conspicuous. Under normal circumstances, no one would enter the tributary. However, this was a special situation. Although it was said that the Chongzhou government's government army was clearing out the water bandits downstream, because they couldn't confirm the exact location of the attack on Jin Wangye, they wouldn't let go of this tens of li section of the road. Although, the closer they got to the river, the less intensive the search was, they still had to be prepared. Only then did they know that there was another world nearby. It was a huge cave covered by lush vines. When the boat was pushed in, it was properly placed. From the outside, it couldn't be seen. However, the things that were unloaded from the boat made the water bandits dumbstruck. These things, many of them were things that the most knowledgeable among them had never seen before. Clan head Pei stroked his beard. Although he had heard of his grandson's extravagant etiquette, when he heard it, he didn't take it seriously. Seeing the scene, he couldn't remain calm. A big man being so luxurious and enjoying himself to this extent, was there really no problem? Well, Clan head Pei had to admit that although it was luxurious, it wasn't tacky. Those treasures and furnishings made his heart move. In this regard, Jin Wangye was absolutely worthy of the rumor. Although Li Hongyuan's goal was Clan head Pei, he didn't want to pay attention to him at all. For him, this seemed to be a suitable place for him to settle down and carry out his plan. In the capital, the news had already been received. Lu Cheng Emperor was furious and almost overturned the imperial case. He didn't give anyone a chance to dissuade him and directly ordered Tong Zhou and Shannon counties to search with all their might. He said, if Jin Wangye is well, they will be well, otherwise, https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653557. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com Biku Gur mobile reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 295. Lu Chengdi's unfinished words. Everyone knew that it was only the severity of the situation. However, at this time, they all thought of the worst direction of the situation. It must be known that when the imperial Gui Fei died, although it was not related to the court, but people in a rage would usually use the word take out their anger to the extreme. Lu Chengdi, as the emperor of the 9 and 5, had no scruples. The court and the harem could be said to be full of mourning. The current Jin Qin Wang was the treasure in Lu Chengdi's palm. If something happened to him, or if it was because he was attacked in the middle of his mission, it would be said that it was done by water bandits. However, the number of people who would be connected to his mission was definitely not in the minority. The consequences would naturally be even more unimaginable. Who knew if he would, in a fit of anger, cut off the heads of all the related personnel. Therefore, some people's expectations were a bit too perfect, and they were happy a bit too early. When they received the urgent imperial edict, the officials of the two counties almost fainted. Did they underestimate the position of Jin Qinhuang in the emperor's heart? Originally, the majority of people were far from losing their heads in the salt policy. Now that something happened to Jin Qinhuang, they might even lose their lives? Then, what was the point of this scheme? Especially the pleading memorials from the officials of Kai Ming Fu. They had been handed in early, but because it was not an urgent submission, it had not reached the emperor's desk. After receiving the imperial edict, they hoped that someone would be able to block the memorials. The emperor was in a rage and had originally opened fire on all sides. If this memorial was handed in, wouldn't it be letting the emperor focus fire on Kai Ming Fu? The people in the cabinet should be clear about the consequences of this memorial. Moreover, everyone was more or less a community of interests, so they should help, right? Unfortunately, their thinking was too perfect. If the cabinet didn't have Li Hongyuan's people, perhaps it would really be as they wished. However, Ruan Ruizhong, the cabinet's grand secretary who appeared to be neutral on the surface, was essentially serving Jin Qinhuang. After receiving Jin Qinhuang's secret letter, how could he possibly obstruct it? He would only not mind the matter becoming bigger. Faced with everyone's obstruction, Ruan Ruizhong only said, "The memorial can only be temporarily suppressed. Sooner or later, it will be delivered to the emperor's hands. Temporarily, it is fine. If Jin Qinhuang is unharmed, then it is naturally best. If it is confirmed that Jin Qinhuang, at that time, the cabinet that suppressed the memorial will inevitably be purged." Sure enough, everyone who tried to stop him remained silent. Compared to him, other people, even if they had a close relationship with him, could only stand aside. Ruan Ruizhong grasped this point and hit the nail on the head. Then, these memorials were naturally handed over to Lu Chengdi. As expected, it was like adding fuel to the fire. Lu Chengdi exploded again. Although he already knew what happened in Kaming Prefecture, he didn't know the details. "You are asking for punishment now? What were you doing earlier?" Lu Chengdi didn't care how many days the memorials were delayed on the road. He only knew that when his son's life was unknown, a group of people asked for punishment after the fact. In his opinion, this was not asking for punishment, but trying to clear their names and shirk responsibility. If they really had the time to write memorials to ask for punishment, why didn't they protect his son after the accident to prevent another accident? When the accident happened again, why didn't they think about searching or saving people? Why did they write a bunch of nonsense here? The Kaming Prefecture had 30,000 official soldiers, but they let 100 bandits sneak into the city and rush into the prince's residence. What the hell were they doing? This was also a time of peace. If there was a war and such a thing happened, wouldn't it be the same as handing over the city to others? Well, this was a bit of sophistry. If there was a war, the gate would be tightly shut. How could more than 100 unknown people sneak into the city? Moreover, they were not unknown people at all. However, would Lu Chengdi think about this now? He wouldn't. He only thought about his son. He and his most beloved woman's only son. He understood very well that the latter was the main point. The governor of the Kaming Prefecture was the first to be affected. He was directly demoted by 3 ranks by Lu Chengdi. This was only temporary. If it was confirmed that Prince Jin had met with misfortune, he would definitely become bald. If other things were found, such as the salt policy, such as the assassination of Prince Jin, his entire family would be investigated. Other people, other than those who didn't write memorials to ask for punishment, were all demoted by 1 or 2 ranks. In the end, Governor Sun's family was the biggest. Even the military power was temporarily handed over to his hands. The expression of the governor of the Kaming Prefecture who was handed over his military power was brilliant beyond compare. Governor Su was his old rival. The two of them had been fighting for more than a day or two. Governor Su did not reveal his strength, but the governor of the Kaming Prefecture never dared to look down on him. He had thought that he might lose in some matters, but he didn't expect that this loss was too ruthless. He might not be able to climb up again. Not only that, he had now fallen under the other party's command. The memorials to ask for punishment did not belong to this old dog Su. in other people's memorials to ask for punishment, he overstepped his authority and did things that were against the rules and would even be punished. Because it was to rescue Prince Jean, it was not meritorious. Governor Darren must be very pleased with himself? The governor of the Kaming prefecture. Oh, wrong, the former governor said while gnashing his teeth. Pleased? What is there to be pleased with? Whether Prince Jean is alive or dead is still unknown. We should do our best to find Prince Jean. Governor Su's face was stern. At this time, we must not be unable to distinguish the priority. These words seemed to be reminding the other party what was the most important thing at the moment. The anger in the former governor's heart was even more intense. Even if this old dog ridiculed him, it was still better than seeing his hypocritical face. But that worry and fear was indeed even more intense. The more he wanted Prince Jin's life before, the more he hoped that the other party was still safe and sound at this time. The Kaming prefecture dispatched 5,000 prefecture soldiers and followed the canal downwards. This was Governor Su's order to expand the scope of the search. Compared to other people, Governor Su's heart was not that calm. It was only because he sensed that Prince Jean was not ordinary. He was not sure if this was just a play arranged by Prince Jean. He did not want Li Hongyuan to die in the Kaming prefecture, but it did not mean that he wanted Li Hongyuan to live. Forcing Li Hongyuan away was within his plan. Making a move on the canal was also a part of the plan. However, colluding with the officials and bandits was not in his plan. When he did things, he always wanted to ensure a 100% success rate. The water bandits were easy to use, but they were not trusted by him. Moreover, there was also the risk of being caught. But the problem was, his people did not have time to make a move. Not only that, they had completely lost track of him. Was he already dead? Or was he caught? The former was still okay, but if it was the latter, with such a scope of search, it was only a matter of time before they were found. However, it was almost 2 days before Li Hongyuan rested. To a certain extent, the life and death of this group of fake water bandits who were taken care of by clan head Pei completely depended on Li Hongyuan's thoughts. Of course, Li Hongyuan's thoughts were completely in the hands of Jingwan. Would Jingwan let these hundreds of men, women, old and young die? If they were real water bandits who committed crimes, or because they had committed a serious crime and had nowhere to go, they were gathered here by clan head Pei. Then, even if they did not want their lives, Jingwan would let them go to the place where they should go. For example, prison, or a bitter and cold place. The problem now was, they did not have either of these. Clan head Pei wanted to say something to Li Hongyuan. However, Li Hongyuan was now impervious to oil and salt. Even because the other party was too noisy, he once let the guards put a knife on his neck. Clan head Pei clearly felt that if he said another word, Li Hongyuan would really kill him without hesitation. Speaking of which, he had always been secretive about coming here. If he really died here, it would be equivalent to dying in vain. The Pei family would not even be able to find his corpse. Before clan head Pei could retreat, the people of the water bandits had already rushed out. Even if the guards drew their swords and threatened them, they would not retreat a single step. Clan leader Pei hurriedly tried to dissuade him. His face was filled with helplessness. "Your Highness, it's all my fault this time. Please be magnanimous and let them off this time. They're all people with hard lives and they're kind-hearted. If you have to do something to appease your anger, you can do it to me. I won't complain at all." There was a hint of pleading in his voice. The water bandits looked at clan head Pei with red eyes. They were all very touched. Then, they looked at Li Hongyuan with hatred, looking like they would fight to the end. Speaking of which, this person, if he could do what clan head Pei did, he could be considered a big winner, right? Li Hongyuan looked at clan head Pei with a faint smile. He did not care about this group of unruly people at all. Jingwan was also not frightened by this hostile situation. She saw that the situation was getting more and more tense, as if it was about to explode at any moment. Jingwan reached out and patted Li Hongyuan's arm. She said somewhat helplessly, "Your Highness, that's enough. Fighting is fighting, don't really kill people." She sounded like she was coaxing a child who was throwing a tantrum. Li Hongyuan was immediately unhappy. He said somewhat angrily, "Who's fighting?" Jingwan looked at him with a faint smile. "Wasn't it obvious? Wasn't it obvious?" Li Hongyuan shot to his feet. His expression was very ugly. He glared at Jingwan as if he wanted to swallow her alive. After a moment, he did not say anything and left in a huff. Jingwan sighed helplessly and waved her hand. "You can all leave first. I want to have a few words with old Master Pei." The group of guards naturally had no objections, and the people of the water stronghold left one after another after receiving the signal from Chief Pei. Jingwan personally poured a cup of tea for clan head Pei. She slowly said, "Old Master Pei, don't blame His Highness. He has a knot in his heart. He more or less has some resentment in his heart. He was raised by noble consort Su since he was born. Although noble consort Su treats him like her own son, it is said that there is no familial affection in the imperial family. Furthermore, noble consort Su has a son. Who knows what she is thinking in her heart? Perhaps she is just using His Highness to consolidate his favor and fight for her son. Although His Majesty dotes on him, His Majesty is His Majesty first and His Majesty is His Majesty's father. The other princes did not have an external family or a biological mother. Even if some of them did not have either, they were not favored by His Majesty. They were invisible in the eyes of others and did not pose a threat. Relatively speaking, they were actually more free. His Highness's favor was the most enviable, but he had no one to back him up. Although he seemed to have unlimited glory on the surface, he was actually the one who had the most difficult life out of all the princes. Now that he was an adult, his temperament had become more tenacious. However, he must have had some dreams when he was young, but they were never realized. Now, in the depths of his heart, there might be a desire. In fact, coming here this time was the best proof. Because when he first received the news, the prince seemed to have sensed something. He appeared calm, but as the person who slept next to him, she could feel the anxiety and impatience in his heart. To be honest, His Highness does not lack people who can help him now. What he lacks is family. Family who are sincere to him. I don't know why old Mr. Pei would invite His Highness in such a special way. It's purely for his sake. He's your grandson by blood, your relative. You're only doing this because you can't meet him openly. I believe that His Highness's attitude towards you will change sooner or later. However, if it's for other reasons, it's best that old Mr. Pei keep your mouth shut. His Highness is especially sensitive and repulsed by such things. That's all I have to say. I will take my leave now." After Jingwan finished speaking, she left without waiting for a response. Clan leader Pei did not react. He sat there in a daze. He basically believed Jin Qin Wang Fei's words. However, he wasn't sure if it was this granddaughter-in-law who felt sorry for her husband and told him, or if it was the two of them who colluded to play the emotional card and gain more benefits. In his opinion, the latter was more likely. After all, this couple had only been married for slightly more than 2 months. His grandson did not look like a kind person. How could he reveal his past so easily? Furthermore, in clan leader Pei's eyes, they were affectionate while traveling with his wife. In his eyes, this was not true love. It was just a cover-up. However, no matter what, one thing was certain. In order to achieve their goal, they had to show sincerity in any aspect. When they returned to their temporary lodging, Jingwan saw Li Hongyuan leaning against the chair and flipping through a book in boredom. There was no trace of anger on his face. When he sensed Jingwan coming in, he did not even lift his eyelids. "What did Wan say about your husband in front of outsiders?" Jingwan walked over and took the book from his hand. She looked at him with a hint of ridicule. "Your Highness, your acting skills are getting better and better." "Is that so?" Wan is also getting impatient. "Keep up the good work." Jingwan chuckled and stopped talking. There was no point in talking about this. Besides, the possibility of her losing was too high. She roughly repeated what she had said just now. Am I really that bad? Your husband has always been willful in the open and in the dark. It's not that easy to make me suffer. Yes, yes, yes. Who do you think you are, Your Highness? Only you can make others suffer. Tell me, what do you think clan leader Pei will think? Damn it. If you want a real family, don't count on him. No matter what, I'm important to him, and he's useless to me. I can't let him take the initiative. If I don't make him bleed, he can forget about getting any benefits from me. Then, let him settle everything after this? Of course. https://www.beacon.com/11/11807/6653562. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.beacon.com. Biku Gur mobile reading website, beacon.com. Chapter 296. It was obvious that this place would be found sooner or later. To cover up Li Hongyuan's intentional disappearance, and to protect the people of the water stronghold, they needed a reasonable explanation. This explanation was not something that could be settled with just a few words. There were many things that needed to be arranged. If they didn't hurry, it would be too late. This was clearly a matter between both parties. After all, if they couldn't cover it up, it would be extremely disadvantageous for both parties. Now that Li Hongyuan confidently handed over everything to clan leader Pei, the other party had no choice but to take over. Who let the one who needed to get closer to him and not Li Hongyuan? Li Hongyuan didn't come forward. The follow-up matters were all handed over to Jingwan. Jingwan didn't say anything. At this time, her own husband was acting tsundere. Naturally, she would follow through to the end. However, Jingwan didn't expose the point that someone's heart was really tsundere. Of course, it wasn't because of clan leader Pei. To be specific, it was probably because someone wanted to be lazy. The result of Jingwan's discussion with clan leader Pei was that Jin Qinhuang was attacked. Under the protection of the gods, he entered the mountains. The attackers chased him relentlessly for 2 days. When everyone was exhausted and heavily injured, they met the people of the water stronghold. Thus, what should be covered up was covered up, and what should be covered up was covered up. It was just that the details of the arrangements were quite difficult. However, Jingwan then found that she thought too much. What should be arranged, clan leader Pei had already arranged. Obviously, he had already thought of this. In the discussion just now, he gave what he thought was a relatively reasonable arrangement. Because it was similar to what Jingwan thought, naturally there was no reason to disagree. For example, the location of the attack had been moved 10 miles downwards, and the boat that was submerged in the water had been moved downwards. Jingwan didn't want to ask him how he did it, but this section of the canal had been sealed, and no one was allowed to pass through. It should be easier to operate than expected. Another example, after entering the mountains, on the escape route, there would be traces of fighting from time to time. There were also many corpses along the way. What we need to deal with now is the things that His Highness and Her Highness brought along, as well as the people who followed them, Clan Head Pei said calmly. Jingwan didn't look too good. Corpse? Where did this corpse come from? It couldn't be a coincidence. Obviously, Patriarch Pei treated human life like grass. There are many birds and beasts in the mountains. All you need to do is leave some bloodstains, rags, and the like. Old Master Pei, do you really have to go to this extent? But Clan Head Pei didn't care. This old man knows that Princess Consort is kind-hearted, but a forgery has to be realistic. There are many smart people. Since there were people who wanted His Highness' life, then they wouldn't let go of any clues. You should know that His Highness brought many people with him, and they were all quite skilled. To be able to force so many people to retreat, the other party must have a large number of people. With so many people lost in the mountains, How could a few bloodstains and cloth make up for it? However, esteemed Wang Fei can be at ease. In the end, it's just a fake. There aren't as many corpses as you think. There definitely wouldn't be fewer corpses. Jingwan's expression didn't improve. Her face was cold. Since old Master Pei has already thought it through, then there's nothing more to say. Most of the people by His Highness' side will be sent away, but they can't be too far away from His Highness. I'm sure old Master Pei has already prepared a place for them to stay. In addition, His Highness is precious and can enjoy himself. Now that we have to sink these things with the ship, even if we salvage them later, I'm afraid that some of them can't be used. Our Pei family will compensate His Highness for all his losses. We just have to inconvenience His Highness for a while. That's great. Jingwan flicked her sleeves and left. Esteemed Wang Fei. Clan head Pei called out to her. Is there anything else? Jingwan didn't turn around. She just tilted her head slightly. She didn't even call out to him. Her disapproval of Clan head Pei's actions couldn't be more obvious. Clan head Pei acted as if he didn't see her displeasure and continued to speak in a neither fast nor slow manner. Those who stayed behind, after all, fought a hard battle to protect His Highness and Her Highness from being injured. How could they not be injured at all? Esteemed Wang Fei, don't you think so? Everything was done for His Highness' sake. Esteemed Wang Fei, please reconsider. Jingwan left with a dark expression. She didn't know how many lives had been lost because of her. Now, under her watch, she had to watch them deliberately injure a perfectly fine person? A cold could be fatal. Moreover, it was already May. Wounds could easily become infected. Who knew if there would be serious consequences? Clan head Pei didn't comment on Jingwan's anger. He picked up his teacup and took a sip. Then, he placed the teacup in front of his eyes and studied it carefully as if he was looking at a treasure. Too soft-hearted. In some aspects, he had to admit that his grandson's Wang Fei was very good. However, in other aspects, she was still lacking. In the current situation, she couldn't be a virtuous wife. She was too benevolent and wasn't suitable to be the mother of the country. So it's time to change? Looking at Jingwan's cold expression, Li Hongyuan knew that the old man must have done something to make her not angry anymore. Wan, don't be angry. I'll avenge you. You don't know anything and you're already thinking of revenge? Maybe he didn't do anything wrong. Jingwan sneered. My Wan is unhappy, so it's his fault. Moreover, do I need a reason to punish someone? He said it as if it was a matter of course. Jingwan narrowed her eyes slightly as she looked at Li Hongyuan. Suddenly, she realized that this man was indeed Clan head Pei's grandson. He was very conceited and self-centered. Clan head Pei was relatively introverted, while Li Hongyuan was more arrogant and flamboyant. In addition, she was also the center of this man's heart. Moreover, she occupied a more important position. Even if she had to do something that was inherently unpleasant, she wouldn't be angry at him because of their closeness. Did this mean that she finally found the origin of Li Hongyuan's ego? Jingwan and Li Hongyuan briefly explained the outcome of their discussion. Li Hongyuan naturally knew why Jingwan was upset. In fact, this was basically within his expectations. However, there were some things that didn't need to be said out loud. Otherwise, Wan would only feel more uncomfortable. She was lacking in these aspects and was no match for that old man. As long as she didn't harden her heart, she would never be a match for this kind of person. Li Hongyuan also knew that she wouldn't end up like this and would always be a loser. But so what? He could deal with these people. Those who bullied his wife naturally had to pay a heavy price. Since things have already come to this, don't think too much. Jingwan pursed her lips. She knew that this was the only way, but her heart couldn't calm down in a short period of time. As for the matter of self-injury, Wang Fei, it's not good. You Darren and the others. Qing Ju hurriedly rushed in. It should be known that when Qing Ju followed Jingwan into Jin Wang Fu, she restrained herself as much as possible. She was afraid that she would be rash and lose face for her family's young lady. To be so anxious at this time, it could be seen that it wasn't a small matter. What happened? Jingwan quickly asked. You Darren and the bodyguard Dage and the others got into a fight. Injured. Jingwan was startled at first. How could they get into a fight without any reason? Not to mention Yu Zhongqing, Li Hongyuan's bodyguards. Which one of them wasn't a person with self-restraint? On second thought, something wasn't right. What about old Mr. Pei? Is he also present? Thinking of this possibility, Jingwan's expression became unusually ugly. She couldn't make a decision on her own and was even worried that she would affect a Yuan's decision, so she acted on her own initiative and directly looked for the people below. Yu Zhongqing was here to protect Jin Wangfu. As for the other bodyguards, to them, their lives weren't their own. If their master needed it, don't mention deliberately getting injured, even if they had to risk their lives, they wouldn't blink an eye. That old thing was sure of this point, so he dared to swagger in to look for people after she left. Based on the basic respect that the younger generation had for their elders, at this moment, it was completely snuffed out. Jingwan hurriedly went out. Li Hongyuan didn't stop her and unhurriedly got up. He also straightened his clothes that didn't have any wrinkles, and then lifted his feet to go out. Jingwan's speed was very fast. Her original intention was to stop Yu Zhongqing and the others, but when she arrived, it was too late. The scuffle was already over. That's right, it was a scuffle, the kind where the attack wasn't on guard. After all, only a real fight could create realistic wounds. More than a dozen people, because the clothes they wore were darker in color, but because of the bloodstains, in addition to the large gashes that were cut open by the blade, it looked very obvious. Jingwan covered her eyes and couldn't say any words of reprimand, because it wasn't their fault at all. In their view, it was natural to do this. Qingju, go and take out the best wound medicine. You all quickly go and treat the wounds. Wang Fei Nyang, in this water stronghold, taking out the best wound medicine is unrealistic. Pei clan head stroked his beard as he spoke. That's enough. The wounds from a few days ago showed no signs of improvement. That's unrealistic. Jingwan said coldly. And all of you, have you forgotten who your master is? You do whatever an outsider tells you to do? The gods were stunned. Indeed, no matter what happened in the end, it was up to their master to decide. They shouldn't have followed Yu Zhongqing's decision just because they thought it was right. They looked at each other and knelt down on one knee. Please punish us, mistress. I'll remember this first. After this mission is over, I'll punish him when we return to the capital. However, I hope that this will be the last time, Jingwan said firmly. Yes. Pei clan head looked on from the side, but he was very dissatisfied. How could a woman reprimand her husband's guards? This wasn't as simple as simply overstepping. Wang Fei Nyang. Jingwan's cold eyes swept over. This Wang Fei is speaking. You're just a commoner. How dare you interrupt? Is this the etiquette of your big family? Is this the seniority of your big family? I call you old mister because you're an elder. Don't take advantage of your seniority to point fingers at this Wang Fei. Pei clan head was choked by Jingwan's words. He had always been a person who wouldn't change his expression even if a mountain collapsed in front of him, but at this moment, he couldn't keep his face straight. Although what she said was the truth and although Pei Shi's situation was unstable, no one had ever dared to say such things to him. Jiangnan's 4 counties and 28 prefectures, even the governor and the inspector general had to be polite to him. Now that he was thrown to the ground and stepped on by a little girl who was his grandchild, it would be strange if he remained indifferent. However, he couldn't find the words to refute. In terms of status, she was a superior Wang Fei. He was indeed just a commoner, this was what he hated the most. In terms of seniority, he wasn't her elder. Even if he was Jin Qinhuang's maternal grandfather, there was no relationship between them in name. So what if she didn't respect him? It was true that Qi Yuan had a tradition of respecting the elderly, but this wasn't a reason to lecture a Qin Wang Fei. Li Hongyuan looked on with interest. What was it? His wife's appearance when she showed her might was really attractive. However, his wife had always had a good temper. It was rare to see someone who could anger her to this extent. This Pei clan head was probably the first. He needed to remember this. As for why his wife had angered his grandfather, it had nothing to do with him at all. Li Hongyuan stepped forward and stroked Jingwan's back to comfort her. Don't worry, I have people who are proficient in medicine. It's just an external injury, it won't cause any serious consequences. Obviously, with the previous years of indirect understanding and daily contact after marriage, Li Hongyuan had a good grasp of Jingwan's mentality. Jingwan slightly relaxed and nodded. There are some things that I need to arrange. Right now, she didn't want to see this Pei clan head at all. Go ahead. Li Hongyuan agreed. It's okay to spoil this woman a little, but if you spoil her too much, she will become arrogant. Your Highness, what does my pleasure have to do with outsiders? Li Hongyuan casually interrupted him. The princess consort hopes that my family will treat me with sincerity. That's why she humbles herself and respects you. Don't tell me you think that your so-called status as the Pei clan head is enough for her to talk to you? I've seen plenty of self-righteous people. What I enjoy is her sincerity. I can't bear to spoil her mood, so I didn't say anything. Don't tell me you think that my silence means that I've acquiesced? I may have some expectations for family relations, but you're a person who prioritizes benefits and wants to make use of me. Do you expect me to obediently come knocking on your door? Who's more stupid than the other? Things have been arranged. Get as far away as you can. If you make her unhappy again, don't blame me for making the entire Pei clan unhappy. Li Hongyuan's words didn't arouse much of a reaction from Pei clan head. Your Highness's importance to the princess consort is really beyond my expectations. His words were a little ironic. In his opinion, this was still an act, and the goal was always the same. However, since some words were exposed, it was also good. Pei clan head didn't intend to use the so-called family relations to achieve his goal. He always believed that there were no eternal enemies or friends, only eternal interests. However, Your Highness did a good job of burning the bridge after crossing the river. Based on your care for the princess consort, you certainly wouldn't order people to hurt themselves. This old man played the villain and helped Your Highness solve it. So what? Do you expect me to be grateful? https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653565. HTML. Click here to report an error, no registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition. Chapter 297. So what? You still expect Ben Wang to be grateful? For people like Li Hongyuan, even if you gave him everything he wanted, he might not say a word of thanks. Wang Ye is thinking too much. Lao Fu just wanted to say that if Wang Ye has something that is inconvenient for you to do, Lao Fu can do it for you. The meaning of these words could not be more obvious. Just like how Li Hongyuan pointed out that the other party was using him, he no longer hid his true purpose. Li Hongyuan sneered. It was obvious that he was ridiculing him. Without saying anything, he turned and left. Pei clan head could not help but frown. He did not quite understand Li Hongyuan's meaning. It did not seem to be a simple distrust. Li Hongyuan had said before, whether or not he was used by the Pei clan, first look at his mood, then look at the Pei clan's sincerity. His mood right now could not be said to be bad, but it was not good for this Pei clan head. As for sincerity, was it just based on one sentence? Moreover, did Li Hongyuan need him to do it for him? Completely not. Pei clan head did not understand for the time being, but he did not make a fuss about it. He was very clear that 100 words were not as good as a single action. Moreover, he only said one sentence. Jin Wangye's purpose for this trip to Jiangnan, he was also very clear. Thus, to let him properly experience Pei Clan's ability, he should not be indifferent. Pei Clan head arranged the follow-up matters and did not ask any more questions. He did not leave. After all, the canal was now sealed and could not be passed through. He could not leave through the mountains. That kind of crossing over the mountains, was it something that an old man like him who lived like a prince could bear? He only changed his attire and hid in the water stronghold, becoming an unremarkable member of the water stronghold. Other than the dozen or so injured guards including Yu Zhongqing, the rest were all hidden according to the original plan. Needless to say, those who were originally in the dock were all hidden, and those who were in the open were all hidden. However, in this way, it was still a little troublesome. After all, there were too many people. If there were too many people missing, they would have to replenish from other places. This replenishment could be planted by spies, and it would be troublesome to clean up the spies. Jingwan's 6 maids were divided into 3 groups, and 2 groups were taken away by the others. Jingwan's wet nurse stayed, and Nanny Gong also left together. According to Li Hongyuan, he wanted Nanny Gong to stay and take care of Jingwan. However, Jingwan's wet nurse's health was far inferior to Nanny Gong's. If she was not careful, she might lose her life. In addition, Nanny Gong's wet nurse was also packed up. In this way, it was more reasonable to scatter the people in the process of hunting. After that, they would find a suitable opportunity to gather the people. The people who were hidden were naturally the dead people. This section of the river stretched for dozens of miles. At least, Jingwan did not know how large the range of the mountains that stretched to both sides of the river was. It was also not a small project to move all the valuables and then ship them out of the sunken ship. They also had to pray that they would not bump into the soldiers outside. However, this had nothing to do with Li Hongyuan. The luxurious things were gone, and they were all changed into plain clothes. If it were not for the fact that the clothes inside were not changed, Li Hongyuan's face would be as black as the bottom of a pot. Of course, this had nothing to do with him. It was mainly because of Jingwan. He was afraid that if he was not careful, Jingwan's skin would be worn out by the rough linen clothes. Jingwan pulled back her sleeves. She looked at Li Hongyuan speechlessly and ignored him. The people who found them came faster than expected. They did not come in from the river, but came out from the mountains. They were led by the water bandits. Not only that, the leader was directly carried on someone's back. However, when she saw that person, Jingwan could not help but feel her heart tighten. It was very unexpected. Li Hongyuan's face was quite ugly. He reached out and grabbed the other person's neck without hesitation. As long as he used more strength, he could really break it. Ah Yuan, don't. Jingwan seemed to be prepared. She hurried forward and grabbed his hand. Li Hongyuan looked coldly at Jingwan. He was even angrier. To be able to make Li Hongyuan have such a big reaction, it was likely that he would appear here. Obviously, other than Sun Yilin, there was no other candidate. Originally, it was better not to meet him. However, his appearance did not seem to be too surprising. As far as Li Hongyuan was concerned, he did not ask him to bring his wife away from anyone. At this time, Sun Yilin had already sunk into a semi-conscious state and looked very terrible. However, he was still mumbling something in his sleep. However, the sensitive people could easily guess. Miss Luo. It was no wonder Li Hongyuan said that he had lost control. Jingwan pulled him. Ah Yuan, if he loses his life like this, I should really remember him for a lifetime. It is not because of anything else, but because of the guilt. You understand? Li Hongyuan's expression was abnormally frightening. The evil aura around him was really like the most ferocious beast that chose to devour people. The surrounding people were all trembling. Even those who were further away, such as Yu Zhongqing, clan leader Pei, and the others, were all shocked. Only Jingwan did not budge an inch. Ah Yuan. There was a hint of pleading in her voice. She knew the anger in his heart. Because if their positions were switched, if Sun Yilin was replaced by another woman, the anger in her heart would also be monstrous. However, in reality, this assumption was not likely to be true. She believed that if she wanted to kill a love rival, he would be more likely to clap his hands and cheer. But in the end, she was different from him. It was not that she did not care, nor was she able to tolerate her other half being coveted by others. In the end, Li Hongyuan could ignore human life, but she could not. What's more, Sun Yilin was in this state because of her. Even if no one asked him to do so, everything was brought upon by him. However, there were only a few people in the world who could remain unmoved. Feelings that she could not and would not accept naturally could not be trampled on. When the other party did not do anything wrong to her or to anyone else, how could she be harsh and ignore the other party's life? Li Hongyuan shook off Sun Yilin and turned to leave. No one dared to come within 1 zhong of him. Jingwan rubbed her temples with a headache. This time, it would not be easy to coax him and appease him. Moreover, if she did not chase after him now, his anger would only increase. However, if she did not make arrangements for the person who had angered Li Hongyuan to this extent, no one would care about him. Take young Master Sun away. Treat him carefully and familiarize him. Do not neglect him. Other than Li Hongyuan, Jingwan was the boss. Naturally, no one would refute her words. In any case, even if it was Wang Ye's anger, there was still her, the Wang Fei. They knew what kind of temperament Jingwan had. She would not vent her anger on them and vent her anger on them. Sun Yilin just happened to open his eyes at this time. She did not know if it was because he saw Jingwan, but he suddenly seemed to be completely awake. He grabbed Jingwan's arm. Miss Luo? I'm not dreaming, am I? The worry and apprehension in his eyes were not the least bit fake. The group of soldiers and generals who had originally followed Sun Yilin to search for the person wished that they were deaf and blind. That was, from the time they left Chongzhou Prefecture until now, in these few days, the provincial governor had not closed his eyes and had not eaten anything. After confirming that Jin Wangye's accident had nothing to do with those 2 or 3 waves of water bandits, he did not participate in the suppression of the bandits. He continued to search along the canal. Every place that could be entered into the mountains was not let go. Every place was carefully inspected by experienced people in an attempt to find clues. Speaking of which, going from the canal to the mountains, under normal circumstances, no one would do this kind of thing. Therefore, every time he was disappointed, he would become more and more anxious. His eyes were bloodshot. He had already reached his limit, but he still persisted and refused to close his eyes. Originally, she thought that he really had taboo feelings towards Jin Wangye. Otherwise, he was the Gongzi of Ding Gua Gong Fu, who was deeply favored by the emperor. He clearly had a boundless future, but he was sent away at a marriageable age. No matter how she looked at it, it did not seem right. If it was because of Jin Wangye was married and went away, it seemed to make sense. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that this was the case. Looking at it now, well, the one who was really missed was not Jin Wangye, but Jin Qin Wang Fei. The person he admired was married and became a woman. It was no wonder that he did not want to stay there sadly. Stop, thinking about Jin Wangye's rage just now, she felt that she could not protect her little life. It's me, you're not dreaming. However, shouldn't Sun Gongzi call me Jin Qin Wang Fei? Jingwan chuckled, but there was no smile in her eyes. She gently brushed away his hand. Sun Gongzi has really worked hard to find Wangye. Please rest well. Wangye is protected by the heavens and is fine. Sun Yilin only felt a burning pain in his lungs. He understood Jingwan's meaning. Her words were good for everyone. His current words and actions were already impolite, but he still could not bear it. The pain in his eyes almost overflowed, but he could only forcibly hold it back. It's good that you're fine, it's good that you're fine. After saying this, Sun Yilin seemed to have been drained of all his strength. His body went soft, his eyes closed, and he completely fainted. Jingwan was also shocked and quickly had people carry him into the room. After confirming that Sun Yilan's life was not in danger, he was just overly tired and had not eaten for many days. In addition, he had been poisoned by the snake venom. Now that the string was stretched taut, he completely collapsed. Jingwan breathed a sigh of relief. However, she was indeed fine. However, she reckoned that everyone would not be fine. Jingwan felt even more of a headache. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653566. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Gur mobile reading website bicken.com. Chapter 298. Although it was a headache, she still had to face it. Of course, Jingwan had never thought of pretending to be an ostrich and not going to see him. Firstly, the consequences would be more serious. Secondly, in Jingwan's philosophy, if there was a problem, it must be solved. Dragging it out or something else was absolutely not desirable. Moreover, that was her other half. Seeing him uncomfortable, Jingwan was also unable to be happy. As for those who found them, how to explain it to them, she didn't need to come forward. However, when Jingwan returned, Li Hongyuan was not in the room. Looking at it this way, his anger was really not ordinary. After asking for a while, no one knew where he went. The guards that were left behind were more or less injured. However, this was not the reason why they were resting. The reason why no one followed was completely because someone did not let them. That appearance of wanting to eat people was really not something that ordinary people could bear. Furthermore, they had always been absolutely obedient to the orders of the masses. At this time, they could only stand in front of Jingwan with their hands hanging down. However, it was not their responsibility. Not being able to protect their master's side was their fault. Don't blame you. Send people to look around. Jingwan rubbed her swollen temples. Jingwan and the others were not in a hurry. However, those people who had just found them, upon hearing that Jin Qinwang was missing, almost jumped up. It must be known that because of these few days, facing the high pressure from above, they were simply throwing their lives away. They couldn't eat or sleep well, their hair was falling out in clumps. Now that they finally saw the person, their suspended hearts finally returned to their original position. Then, they made such a scene. This heart really couldn't bear it. Even if their breathing was not even steady, they were still in a hurry to find the person. Because they were not familiar with the water stronghold, each and every one of them were like headless flies. The people of the water stronghold were baffled. What were they doing? Then, the water stronghold was turned upside down, but they still didn't see the person. When they reported to Jingwan, Jingwan was extremely speechless. The people of the water stronghold are more familiar than you. There are hundreds of people. There must be someone who saw the whereabouts of Wang Ye. Don't you know how to open your mouth and ask? You're just randomly looking around like that? Everyone's expressions were rather interesting. They had been too anxious and had completely forgotten. At this moment, they were so ashamed that they wanted to crawl into a hole and hide their faces. Sure enough, after casually asking around, he found out Li Hongyuan's whereabouts. He had left the water stockade and entered the mountains. Because of this, they couldn't sit still and were in a hurry to search. They came from the mountain ridge. Although they didn't go very deep, and basically walked to the shortest route to the water stronghold, they still deeply felt the danger inside. On the other hand, Jingwan was very calm. Within a certain range of the water stockade, there definitely wouldn't be anything too dangerous. Although she hadn't seen Li Hongyuan's skills, she had seen him kill people, and he even had the battle record of fighting a tiger alone. So, how could he be weak? Ordinary dangers couldn't do anything to him. Jingwan carefully inquired about the situation in that direction and found out that it was actually a valley about 2 miles long. Not far from the end, there was a lake that was neither big nor small. Under normal circumstances, there would be some small animals roaming around. Because the water bandits often hunted, there were basically no large birds or beasts within 5 miles. Jingwan thanked her, and then found 2 people to lead the way. Together, they went into the mountains to search for Wang Ye. According to their intentions, they didn't want Jingwan to go. Jingwan only had one sentence. Do you have the confidence to find Wang Ye and bring him back? All right, they all understood Jingwan's meaning. Finding him wasn't the main point, but after finding him, getting him back was the main point. They didn't dare to say a word. How could they get him back? Moreover, people with discerning eyes knew that Wang Ye was jealous. If Wang Fei didn't personally go, if they went forward, they would definitely be punished. Jingwan wasn't wearing cumbersome magnificent clothes now. She was dressed in cloth and was very capable. It was only going up the mountain, not climbing a cliff. It was a piece of cake. The troops split into 2. The majority of the people first went to look for Li Hongyuan, while the rest followed behind to protect Jingwan. They thought that the people behind would be very slow. Wang Fei, after all, was precious and delicate. Walking in the mountain forest, how could she be fast? Perhaps she would be out of breath after walking a few more steps. As a result, they soon found that they were thinking too much. Jin Qinhuang's speed wasn't much slower. Jin Qinhuang might not have walked along the valley, but went up the mountain from both sides. This assumption didn't happen. Soon, news came from the front that the person had been found. He was by the lake, but they didn't dare to alarm him. The vegetation in the valley was relatively short. The closer it was to the lake, the taller the trees were. But at most, they were only about a zhong tall, far from the height of towering giant trees. Through the gaps between the trees, Jingwan could faintly see Li Hongyuan's figure. He was sitting on a rock by the lake with one leg bent, inexplicably feeling a little bleak. Jingwan's heart subconsciously clenched and her footsteps involuntarily quickened. The other people consciously stopped and scattered around to ensure that they couldn't see or hear, and to isolate themselves from any danger. Li Hongyuan couldn't be more familiar with Jingwan's footsteps, but he still sat there motionless. However, only he knew the emotions flashing in his eyes, as well as the sinister and calculating. In fact, he was very clear that whether it was Sun Yilin or Chen Zhengmin, they couldn't die. At least, they couldn't die in his hands. There was originally no estrangement between him and Jingwan. If he killed them, it would instead breed estrangement. Perhaps it wouldn't be irreconcilable, but Jingwan's heart would definitely have a knot. Moreover, as Jingwan herself said, she would probably remember it for a lifetime. How could he allow it? In this way, the conflict would only deepen and develop to the point where it could get out of hand. This was definitely not what he wanted to see. Who made him unhappy? If he couldn't kill them, he would return it back 10 times, 100 times. It must be said that Li Hongyuan was currently the craziest, but also the most rational. A madman wasn't scary, a rational person wasn't scary, but a rational madman could be quite scary. Jingwan approached and reached out to put her hand on his shoulder. Yuan. Li Hongyuan was still indifferent. Are you still angry? Jingwan was actually a little helpless. She knew what he was concerned about, but this problem couldn't be solved at the moment. It was useless to say anything. She reached out and hugged him from behind. She leaned her cheek against the side of his head. I'm sorry. Li Hongyuan was stunned. Why? The one who had the least reason to apologize was her. It couldn't be for Sun Yilin. If that were the case, he would really kill someone. Would Wan be so stupid? As a wife, isn't it my fault that I can't give my husband 100% sense of security? To be honest, Li Hongyuan didn't understand the word sense of security very well. At most, he could make a rough guess based on the meaning of the word. If he understood it completely, he would probably explode. It has nothing to do with you, Wan. I shouldn't take my anger out on you. The one who should be apologizing is me. But Wan, I can't control myself. I won't allow anyone to spy on you. Even if I know that they will never take you away from me, I won't allow it. Yes, I know. In fact, as a man of traditional etiquette, 9 out of 10 men wouldn't be able to tolerate such things. They might even take their anger out on women because of this. They wouldn't trust their daughters and would do something that was very despicable. After that, it would be too late to regret it. They would look like they were in so much pain that they wished they were dead. Just like Lu Cheng Emperor, it was actually very disgusting. Li Hongyuan held her hand. Jing Wan stepped on the stone and walked in front of him, snuggling into his arms. Li Hongyuan deliberately controlled himself and didn't let Jing Wan notice the look in his eyes. Although he couldn't see it himself, he knew very well that the look in his eyes at this moment was very scary. After staying in silence for a while, Jing Wan's attention shifted slightly from him. The scenery here is not bad. Li Hongyuan glanced at it. Yes. He responded indifferently. No matter how beautiful the scenery was, it couldn't hide his dark heart. It wasn't early to begin with. At this time, the sky had formed a beautiful fiery cloud. It was reflected in the back lake. It looked particularly beautiful. Looking at this scenery, Jing Wan forgot her worries for a moment. She was so quiet, and occasionally said a few words. Time passed quietly, and the sky was getting darker and darker. Ah Yuan, let's go back. Let's go back. Seeing that the two of them were moving, the people around them slowly gathered. The two of them walked at the front hand in hand. The others kept a distance of more than 10 feet behind them. When they returned to the water stronghold, the lights were already lit. Seeing them return, everyone was very happy. In the evening, Li Hongyuan saw the generals of this trip and said a few words of encouragement. Because they had already heard of Li Hongyuan's actions as the king of hell, this time they were in fear and trepidation, overwhelmed by the favor. Li Hongyuan didn't comment. He wasn't someone who would consider other people's feelings. Have you already informed your superiors? Yes, by tomorrow morning at the latest, they will come to pick you up and leave. It's been a few days. Have you found out who attacked this prince? There was some sweat on the general's forehead, replying to Wang Ye, this general is responsible for Governor Sun. Speaking to this point, he suddenly remembered that Sun Gongzi was still thinking about Jin Qin Wang Fei, causing Jin Qin Wang to become jealous. Now that he mentioned it, did he want to die, or did he want to die? But he couldn't say half of what he wanted to say, so he had to bite the bullet and continue, to find the whereabouts of your highness. As for the other matters, this general doesn't know for the time being. Please forgive me, your highness. In reality, it wasn't that they didn't know, but that there was no progress. The colleagues who were in charge of this matter, as well as the various officials, were so worried that their hair had turned white. Fortunately, Jin Qinwang's good fortune was profound and he was not injured. Otherwise, they really wouldn't be able to bear the emperor's anger. You may leave. Yes. That's it? The general who retreated let out a sigh of relief. A gust of wind blew, and he felt a chill on his back. It turned out that he was already drenched in sweat. At this time, Jing Wan had already fallen asleep. Li Hongyuan looked at the light and was slightly lost in thought. Patriarch Pei requested an audience. Perhaps it was because he had nothing to do, but Li Hongyuan wanted to see him. Patriarch Pei gave a courtesy greeting. It's all because Jin Qin Wang is dissolute and beautiful, but he was originally an infatuated type. This is really unexpected, to the point that he had wronged himself. Everyone says that love is long, but the hero's breath is short. When it comes to Jin Qin Wang, it's hard to avoid disappointment. Disappointed in Ben Wang. The remnant of the previous dynasty must have satisfied Patriarch Pei. Patriarch Pei was startled. This old man doesn't know what your highness is talking about. Although he tried his best to conceal it, but the shock wasn't light. Scram! Patriarch Pei clenched his fists in his sleeves. Your highness is in a bad mood. So, this old man will take his leave first. https://www.bicken. com/11/11807/6653568. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile reading website. Bicken.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.